Chapter 1589 Fall from Zenith. Chapter 1589 Fall from Zenith. Right now, an Ancestor Realm battle had broken out on the battlefield of Enigma Palace. The Mahayana Patriarchs of Enigma Palace were using their lives and blood to buy time and protect Desolate Marshal as they fought against the four primordial race Patriarchs. Although True Jade had an absolute advantage against Rakshasa Li Ying in the fight, it was difficult to determine the victor within a short period of time. Now that all the top sects and factions of Tianhuang mainland were gathered here, the situation wouldn't change even if any other factions arrived. Therefore, even when the bell of Enigma Palace sounded, no one paid attention. The battle was turning more intense. In just 10 minutes, 7 of the 17 patriarchs had died. The remaining patriarch Wu Hua and the others had their bodies torn at least once as well. All of them were covered in blood and had pale expressions. When the cultivators saw that, it was as though the unprecedented war between the human race and the primordial 9 races in the ancient era had resurfaced before them once more. The tragic scenes of mighty figures and patriarchs dying that were recorded in the ancient books had truly happened before everyone. However, compared to the cold text records, this was far more shocking and tragic. Furthermore, all the cultivators knew that the current battle was merely a test between the patriarchs of the primordial 6 races and the human race. The top Ancestor Realm experts had yet to appear. The emperors of the various races had not appeared either. Once a late-stage or perfected Mahayana patriarch appeared and the emperors descended, that would be the true battle. Whether or not there was a negotiation, there was a high chance that this 10,000 race meet would determine the situation of Tianhuang mainland in the future. It would determine the future of the human race. Give up. After a few head-on clashes with True Jade and suffering immense losses, Patriarch Li Hing no longer fought her head-on. Instead, he used his movement technique speed to hold her back. True Jade was stronger than Patriarch Li Ying. However, she had no way of suppressing him completely as well. "T'll be blunt." Patriarch Li Ying pouted his lips in disdain. "You patriarchs of the human race are merely delaying things. Some of the top-tier patriarchs of our primordial races have yet to appear. If they do, even the emperors of the human race might not be able to defend against them." Patriarch Zhongming said coldly, "The primordial 9 races suffered immense losses in the primordial war against the taboos. That was the only reason why the human race had a chance to rise. To be precise, if a supreme expert like the human emperor had not appeared out of nowhere and turned the tides, your human race would have lost a long time ago." At the mention of the human emperor, a wary look flashed through the eyes of the 5 patriarchs of the primordial races present. Even though the human emperor had been gone for countless years, his reputation had shocked history and the primordial races were extremely wary of him. Patriarch Shenyu shook his head gently and said slowly, "Unfortunately, immense fortune is required for a variant like the human emperor to be born. However, in this generation the human race is at the end of its road. There's no way you can possess a supreme expert like the human emperor. Your human race is finished. The human race is at the end of its road." Many cultivators were silent and their expressions dimmed. Even without Patriarch Shenyu pointing it out, they knew what was going on. In this generation's human race, it could be seen from all aspects that their fortune was extremely weak. It was lifeless without any vigor. Most of the cultivators no longer had the heroic and courageous spirit of the ancient era. They no longer had the fervent fighting spirit and persistence. In fact, cracks even surfaced between the major sects and factions of the cultivation world. All the cultivators were no longer united. All signs were telling the world that the human race was at the end of its road. During this period of time, Desolate Marshal rose and established the martial Tao, imparting martial arts to all living beings and establishing the spirit of the martial Tao, increasing the vigor of the cultivation world. However, it was too late. The martial Tao had only appeared for a few hundred years. Although Desolate Marshal was the #1 monster incarnate in history, he had yet to advance to the Mahayana realm and his future was uncertain. The primordial 6 races would not give the human race or Desolate Marshal time. In reality, that was the utmost truth of the great Tao and the eternal rules of the world. Everything in the world falls from its zenith. In the primordial era, the 3 great taboos reigned domineeringly and the primordial 9 races ruled over Tianhuang mainland. At their peak, it triggered the primordial war. The 3 taboos fell and the primordial 9 races suffered immense losses as well. The human race seized the opportunity to rise. The primordial 9 races only declined completely after the ancient war and were trapped in a corner of Tianhuang mainland to recuperate. As for the human race, they had dominated Tianhuang mainland for countless years. Just like the primordial 9 races in the past, they were extremely strong until they peaked. After a long period of deterioration thereafter, they were completely defeated in this era. This was the fall from Zenith, and this shift in momentum was not something that could be reversed by sheer effort. In the primordial era, even the strong 3 taboos and the primordial 9 races could not defend against the suppression of the shifting momentums. Patriarch Xinyu was not wrong. The human race was at the end of its road. There was no way such a thin fortune could produce a supreme expert like the eternal human emperor. Unfortunately, there was an additional variable for the human race in this generation. Many years ago, a woman arrived in Tianhuang mainland and brought a scholar from an unassuming small town into the cultivation world, altering his fate. This woman had altered the scholar's fortune. This scholar laid down a great vow to alter the fates of all living beings in the world. Therefore, although everyone from Enigma Palace, including the storyteller, could tell that the fortune of the human race was depleted, they could not divine the fate of that scholar. That was the reason why the storyteller told the scholar that he was the future hope of the human race. That was the reason why the Mahayana Patriarchs of Enigma Palace spared no effort to protect the scholar from harm. Give up. Patriarch Xinyu looked at Patriarch Wuhua, who was not far away, and said indifferently, "Your blood qi is weak and is no longer enough to support your blood rebirth. Nobody can stop us from killing Desolate Marshal." "Who says so?" Right then a voice sounded from outside Enigma Palace. It sounded tender, as though the person who spoke was pretty young. "MMM?" The expressions of the living beings of the 10,000 races changed. Who would dare to stand on Desolate Marshal's side at this moment and go against the primordial 6 races? All the living beings of the 10,000 races looked over. A group of living beings with majestic auras walked over from outside Enigma Palace. There were hundreds of them, and they seemed to be covered in a layer of mist. When gathered, the hundreds of living beings seemed like an unfathomable ocean. Although those living beings were in human form, they were clearly not human and were shrouded by demonic qi. There were conjoint body mighty figures and half-martial ancestor experts. The auras released by the hundreds of them were as vast as an ocean and were not inferior to the primordial 6 races. Among the hundreds of living beings, a black-robed young man stood. He looked to be around 16 years old and was rather handsome. His eyes were huge, watery, and unusually agile. Many powerful living beings protected the black-robed young man in the middle as though he was a planet orbited by stars. Chapter 1590, I Might Not Know My Limits. Chapter 1590, I Might Not Know My Limits. The living beings of the 10,000 races frowned slightly. Although they could not tell the origin of the living beings, the primordial 6 races present recognized them instantly. Kuan race. Patriarch Xinyu frowned slightly. The words Kuan race instantly caused a commotion in the crowd. Over the years, although various primordial races had walked out of the Forbidden Grounds and snatched territories in Tianhuang mainland while conducting massacres, 3 of them had not made any moves. One of them was the Kuan race. Although Enigma Palace sent an invitation to the Kuan race for the 10,000 race meet as well, it was like a rock sinking into the ocean without any response. To think that the Kuan race would descend upon Enigma Palace today. More importantly, it was the attitude of the Kuan race. As one of the primordial 9 races, if the Kuan race stood on the side of the human race, their chances of negotiation would increase significantly. Even Enigma Palace could not understand why the Kuan race was on the side of the human race. Xinyu and the others stopped and looked towards the Kuan race. Patriarch Wuhua and the others were already sweating profusely. They consumed elixirs frantically and rested as hurriedly as they could, trying their best to recover their stamina. Who was the one who spoke just now? Patriarch Jinyan scanned the Kuan race and asked coldly. Me. The black-robed young man in the middle of the Kuan race pushed everyone away and walked out, raising his head. Even against the Patriarch's question, the black-robed young man had a fearless expression. The black-robed young man was carefree. Patriarch Jinyan glared at him coldly with disdain and had no intention of paying attention. The 2 of them were not on the same level. He looked at the other experts of the Kuan race and nodded slightly. Kuan race, we welcome your return to join forces with the primordial 6 races. Big Golden Bird, what nonsense are you talking about? Carefree stuck out his tongue at Patriarch Jinyan. The Kuan race won't join forces with you guys. Furthermore, you can't injure him. He pointed to the creation green lotus that was still breaking through not far away and said in a resolute tone. Patriarch Jin Yan's expression darkened. The living beings of the 10,000 races were shocked as well. They had never seen anyone who would dare to call a patriarch of the Golden Crow race a big golden bird. Foo-foo. The Golden Crow 10th Prince could not help but stifle a chuckle. Inexperienced punk, there is no place for you to speak here. Insolent. Audacious. Before Carefree replied, the many Kuan race beings behind him hollered with enraged expressions. This is our young master of the Kuan race, mind your words. A half-martial ancestor of the Kuan race glared at the 10th Prince and said coldly. Oh. The 10th Prince sized up Carefree with a curious look. Even the living beings of the 10,000 races were surprised, let alone the 10th Prince. Prior to this, when there was peace between the races, most of the young masters of the primordial 9 races were mostly at the Dharma characteristic or even void reversion realm. However, when chaos descended, powerful monster incarnates of the primordial races came forth from seclusion one after another. Anyone who could become a young master of the primordial races had to be at the conjoined body realm at least. After all, the young masters of the primordial races had to lead their clansmen to fight in Tianhuang mainland. It would be difficult for them to accomplish anything if their cultivation realms were too low. The young masters were the faces of the primordial races. It was indeed strange for the Kuan race to instate a Dharma characteristic young master during these chaotic times. Carefree looked at the 10th Prince and pouted as well. Judging from your age, you're just a young punk as well. How dare you teach me a lesson? Although the 10th Prince had the appearance of a child, he had cultivated for much longer than Carefree. The 10th Prince said coldly, I'm a half-martial ancestor, but you're only at the Dharma characteristic realm. In this 10,000 race meet, the strong reign supreme. Even if you're the young master of the Kuan race, you're not qualified to speak. Listen to my advice, scram back and drink your mother's milk. Ha 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 ha. A series of laughter broke out from the crowd of the primordial 6 races. You. Everyone from the Kuan race was enraged. Some of the Kuan experts could not even hold it in and wanted to step forward. However, Carefree waved his hand and stopped them. I don't want to drink milk. Carefree tilted his head slightly and looked at the 10th Prince, saying in a serious manner, I want to eat you. Your flesh should taste good after being roasted by a fire. The 10th Prince's expression darkened as he said icily, You sure are sharp-tongued at such a young age. Night Spirit's gaze shifted to Carefree and lingered for a moment. The 10th Prince was not the only one. All the living beings present thought that Carefree had merely said it casually to anger the former. However, only Night Spirit knew that Carefree truly wanted to eat the 10th Prince. That was because he could sense an aura of the same kind coming from Carefree. They were not of the same race but were both taboos. That kid should be the disciple first took in. Night Spirit thought to himself. The 10th Prince rolled his eyes and suddenly smiled. Kiddo, since you want to eat me so badly, how about I give you a chance? What chance? Carefree could not help but ask. TL spar with you. If you win, I'll let you eat a piece of my flesh. How about that? The 10th Prince's voice was gentle and filled with temptation, but there was a hint of ferocity in his eyes. He was severely injured by Su Zimo earlier on and his third leg was shattered, crippling more than half of his cultivation. Although he was still at the half-martial ancestor realm, his combat strength had already fallen to the conjoined body realm. After the 10,000 race meet was over, his position as the 10th Prince would definitely be replaced by his clansmen. Therefore, there had always been a pent-up frustration and hatred in his heart that he could not vent. Now, Carefree's repeated provocations triggered his killing intent. Of course, he would not kill Carefree since the latter was the young master of the Kuan race. However, if there was a chance, he could teach this cub of the Kuan race a good lesson and appease his anger. But what if I lose? Carefree seemed hesitant and afraid. If you lose, I won't make things difficult for you, don't worry. The smile in the 10th Prince's eyes intensified. This cub was still too young and had not experienced much of the world. After pondering for a moment, Carefree continued, However, what if we fail to hold back once we start sparring? Don't worry. The 10th Prince said hurriedly, I'll definitely know my limits. TM worried that I might not know my limits. Carefree blinked. Haha. The 10th Prince burst into laughter. It's fine, kiddo. You can attack as you please without worrying about going overboard. He could tell that this cub of the Kuan race was tempted. Alright then, I'll give it a try. Carefree hesitated for a moment before making up his mind and nodding vigorously. Young master, you can't take the risk given your noble status. That's right, young master. The two of you are a major cultivation realm apart. You're on completely different levels. The few Kuan race beings behind Carefree stood out hurriedly and tried to stop him. Everyone, don't worry. Afraid that Carefree might renege, the 10th prince said hurriedly, I guarantee that I won't use the power of a conjoint body or above. I'll just use the power of a Dharma characteristic to have fun with this kiddo. Uncles, don't worry. Carefree blinked at the Kuan race experts behind him with a crafty look in his eyes. Chapter 1591, Devoured Alive. Chapter 1591, Devoured Alive. When the Kuan race experts saw Carefree's expression, they shuddered instinctively. Back in Baiming, each time this little ancestor of theirs revealed that expression, he would definitely be plotting against someone. Countless clansmen of the Kuan race had suffered immense losses in the hands of this little ancestor. The experts of the Kuan race exchanged glances and said nothing more as they mourned in silence for the 10th prince. Carefree turned around and took a few steps towards the 10th prince before coming to a stop. I've only cultivated for a short period of time and I really don't know my limits. I think it's better for us to cancel the spar. If someone gets hurt, wouldn't that spoil our relationship? Since things had come to this, there was no way the 10th prince would let Carefree off scot-free. The 10th prince said hurriedly, It's fine, use all your methods. There's no need to hold back. Harming me aside, even if you can take my life, that will be because you're capable. In that case. Carefree nodded. Let's do it then. Carefree stood firmly and gripped his fists, putting on a strong front as he glared at the 10th prince, ready to strike at any moment. The 10th prince looked at everyone from the Kuan race and suddenly said, Let's agree first that outsiders can't interfere casually in a spar between us brothers. Don't worry, we won't interfere. Many experts of the Kuan race nodded and looked at the 10th prince with strange gazes. Initially, Patriarch Yu and the others did not take this small interlude to heart. They were still thinking about why the Kuan race would help Desolate Marshal. However, for some reason, when he saw the reactions of the Kuan race experts, Patriarch Yin suddenly frowned, as though he sensed that something was amiss. Could it be that this cub of the Kuan race is playing the pig to eat the tiger? Patriarch Yin gaze landed on Carefree once more. After all, nobody could become a young master of the primordial races without being outstanding. However, even after scanning with his gaze and spirit consciousness for a few times, he found nothing. The black-robed young man of the Kuan race was indeed at the Dharma characteristic realm and was not hiding anything from them. Perhaps I'm overthinking it. Patriarch Yin shook his head and stopped thinking. Furthermore, even if this cub of the Kuan race was capable, he would not be able to threaten a prince of the Golden Crow race. On the battlefield. The 10th prince smirked and walked slowly towards Carefree. Indeed, he did not reveal the aura and strength of a conjoint body and said softly, Younger brother of the Kuan race, don't be nervous. Relax, relax. Carefree was still unmoved and glared at the 10th prince fixedly. Suddenly, the 10th prince swayed a little and transformed into a golden streak of light, vanishing from the spot. It was too fast. Even if the 10th prince did not transform into his true form and merely used the power of the Dharma characteristic realm, his movement technique speed was much faster than Dharma characteristic Tao Lord's. Carefree's eyes were widened as he stared blankly at the spot where the 10th prince disappeared, as though he could not react in time. Sigh. Patriarch Wu Hua's eyes dimmed as he sighed and thought to himself, what's the Kuan race thinking? Why did they send a child to give away his life for nothing? It's over. The spirit tiger slapped his thighs. One look and I can tell that this child has no combat experience. This complete virgin is going to suffer a huge loss. Not necessarily. Suddenly Night Spirit spoke. Right then, the 10th prince had already appeared behind Carefree and revealed a menacing smile. He reached out and grabbed Carefree's neck. Suddenly, the blood chi of that seemingly skinny Carefree surged and burst forth instantly, as though raging tides were gushing with a terrifying might. Carefree spun around and his original head was gone. In its place was a menacing head of a gigantic beast with a humongous mouth that seemed like it wanted to devour the world. The gigantic head looked exactly the same as the Kuan race. The 10th prince felt a blood stench surge in his face and his vision darkened. His pupils constricted and his heart stopped beating. The aura released by the gigantic beast gave him shudders. It was a suppression from his bloodline. A fear that came from the depths of his soul burst forth. Without hesitation, the 10th prince could not care less about his promise and released his conjoint body realm blood chi, wanting to retreat. However, he suddenly felt an extremely terrifying suction power burst forth from the gigantic beast's mouth. He froze for a moment and could not escape right away. The next moment, darkness descended. The mouth of the gigantic beast closed. Swoosh! The eyelids of the living beings of the 10,000 races twitched when they heard that loud sound. All of their faces turned pale as they watched dumbfounded, and their jaws nearly dropped to the ground. They were completely stricken. In the blink of an eye, the gigantic beast's head vanished and the handsome and young face returned to everyone's line of sight. Carefree smacked his lips and wiped away the blood oozing from the corner of his mouth, murmuring softly, "The taste of eating him raw is indeed just ordinary. It was probably better to roast and cook him first." The crowd exploded instantly, causing an uproar. It was only at that moment that the living beings of the 10,000 races realized that the Golden Crow 10th Prince had been devoured alive by the black-robed young man. Oh. The Spirit Tiger was already speechless from the shock as he turned to look at Night Spirit. "Fifth, you're amazing. How could you tell?" Night Spirit replied indifferently, "The 10th Prince's third leg was shattered and his cultivation was crippled. Coupled with his underestimation of the enemy, it was only natural that he would die." The Spirit Tiger grimaced and murmured, "But even so, that child is frighteningly strong, right?" Of course, there was another reason that Night Spirit did not mention. If Carefree was only an ordinary race being, he wouldn't have been able to stop the 10th Prince from releasing his blood chi to escape earlier on. However, Carefree was the Kuan Peng. The devouring power released by the interweave of the extreme yin and yang powers was something that even the conjoint body 10th Prince could not break free from right away. That single momentary pause caused him to be devoured alive by Carefree. This was a true complete annihilation where even his essence spirit could not escape. This child is way too ruthless. The Golden Crow 10th Prince merely wanted to spar, but he was eaten by this child. The 10th Prince was truly way too careless. He sure died in grievance. The living beings of the 10,000 races discussed. Carefree had just been born and was too young. He had yet to take on the complete form of a Kuan Peng and could merely condense a head that looked no different from the Kuan races. For example, Night Spirit looked like a large black dog when he was young as well. Therefore, none of the patriarchs of the primordial races present noticed Carefree's true identity. Patriarch Jin Yan glared at Carefree fixedly with a dark expression. It was nothing much for the 10th Prince to die. However, when Carefree conjured the gigantic beast's head, there was an extremely primordial aura that made him feel fear. Could it be? Patriarch Jin Yan thought of a possibility but denied it immediately. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Chapter 1592 Yin Lan. Chapter 1592, Yin Lan. Patriarch Jin Yan turned towards Patriarch Xinyu and the others. The other patriarchs looked bewildered as well, as though they recalled something but did not dare to confirm. The death of the 10th Prince incurred the wrath of many Golden Crows. For the 10,000 race meet this time round, 4 Golden Crow princes came. One of them was slain by the Azura, one of them was shot down by Desolate Marshal, and now, another was eaten by a cub of the Kuan race. The 7th Prince was the only one left among the 4 princes. The Golden Crow race had suffered immense losses. The 7th Prince said coldly, "Kid of the Kuan race, you sure are savage. It's not my fault, right?" Carefree blinked and said, "I've already emphasized repeatedly that I haven't cultivated for long and don't know my limits." He was the one who insisted on sparring. "You." The 7th Prince was furious and momentarily speechless. Carefree continued, "Every one of the 10,000 races witnessed this. I didn't want to fight. Furthermore, that big golden bird said if I can kill him, it's because I'm capable." "That's right, we heard it. You can't blame the child for this. What does a child know? A child wouldn't know his limits. He can't blame others for dying because he has inferior skills." Monkey and the others gloated and goaded at the side. "Don't waste time talking to him. Go and test his strength and force out the complete form of this cub." Patriarch Jin Yan sent a voice transmission to the 7th Prince using his spirit consciousness. The 7th Prince understood and glared at Carefree, saying coldly, "Since you're so capable, I'll give it a shot as well. TM not playing anymore." Carefree made a funny face at the seventh prince and turned to flee. In the blink of an eye, he returned to the crowd of experts of the Kuan race. Hundreds of Kuan race experts protected Carefree in the middle and glared at the seventh prince in midair with unfriendly expressions. No matter how strong the seventh prince was, he did not dare to barge in. Furthermore, he had just been beaten up badly by Desolate Marshal and was not at his peak condition. The seventh prince's expression was steely. However, he composed himself quickly and sneered, to think that the young master of the Kuan race would be so cowardly to flee without fighting. Aren't you afraid of embarrassing the Kuan race? I'm just a child. Carefree stuck out his tongue. My cultivation realm can't compare to yours, so I naturally have to flee. Furthermore, you big golden birds don't keep your words, getting all anxious when you lose. I'm not playing with you guys anymore. The seventh prince shuddered and nearly spat out a mouthful of blood. Hee hee. Suddenly, Patriarch Jin Yen laughed. Cub of the Kuan race, you sure are sharp-tongued and impolite. Since that's the case, I'll teach you a lesson on behalf of the seniors of the Kuan race. At that point, all the living beings of the 10,000 races were shocked. No matter how they looked at it, it was unusual that a patriarch of the primordial races would be provoked to attack a Dharma-characteristic youth personally. However, none of the living beings of the 10,000 races understood the reason behind it. Patriarch Jin Yen was naturally making an excuse by saying that he wanted to teach Carefree a lesson. His goal was to see what Carefree's true form was. Patriarch Jin Yen, as an ancestor realm expert, aren't you going overboard by wanting to deal with a child at the Dharma characteristic realm? Patriarch Jin Yen, please respect yourself. If news of you bullying the young spread, it'll probably cause countless ridicule and shame the Golden Crow race. A few Kuan half-martial ancestors stood out and shouted with grim expressions as they glared at Patriarch Jin Yen not far away. Humph. In a flash, Patriarch Jin Yen suddenly descended above the many Kuan race beings and released his might of the ancestor realm. He said coldly, "Scram. There's no room for you guys to speak." Ugh. The few Kuan half-martial ancestors grunted with ugly expressions. However, they did not retreat. Instead, they summoned their destiny dermic weapons and protected Carefree tightly. How dare a few stinky fish like you try to stop me? Patriarch Jin Yen sneered and his spirit consciousness moved. Suddenly, a golden light burst forth from his body and struck the destiny dermic weapons of the Kuan half-martial ancestors instantly. Clang, clang, clang. The bodies of the Kuan half-martial ancestors shuddered and they could not withstand the impact. Their destiny dermic weapons flew out of their hands. One after another, golden flames burned on the destiny dermic weapons. In the blink of an eye, they were burned through and turned red. The destiny dermic weapons flew everywhere and landed in the crowd of the Kuan race, causing chaos. Patriarch Jin Yen had a cold expression. In a flash, he arrived before Carefree through the gaps within the chaotic Kuan race and opened his palm to grab the latter's face. Little cub, since you're so bold, I'll give you a chance. Come and eat my flesh. Patriarch Jin Yan's gaze was cold and he did not seem like he was holding back at all, looking murderous. He was going to force Carefree's true form out. Jin Yan, you've gone overboard. Suddenly, a cold voice sounded from behind Carefree. Immediately after, the void cracked and an arm extended. The palm gripped into a fist and crossed Carefree's shoulder, colliding heavily against Patriarch Jin Yan's palm. Bang. A dull sound of defeat echoed when the fist and palm collided. Howl? Patriarch Jin Yen howled in pain and soared into the air, reappearing dozens of feet away in the blink of an eye. He glared at the tear in the void behind Carefree with a dark expression. The power of that punch was extremely strong, like a vast ocean that seemed endless. He could not defend against it. A silver-haired woman walked out of the void crack with a cold expression. Although she could not compare to peerless beauties like Rakshasa Yu and Goddess Xiaoxiang, she was still a rare beauty. Sister, you're here. When Carefree saw the silver-haired woman, he could not help but cheer and pointed to Patriarch Jin Yen in the distance. That big golden bird bullied us. Sister, help me teach him a lesson. Yin Lan, is that you? Patriarch Jin Yen frowned slightly. To think that you've already entered the ancestor realm after not seeing you for so many years. The younger generation is truly promising. The silver-haired woman named Yin Lan said indifferently, our cultivation realms are the same, so there's no need for you to put on airs, calling me a part of the younger generation. I'm not falling for it. You came at the right time. Patriarch Jin Yen pointed at Carefree and said in a deep voice, What's up with this young master of your Kuan race? Not only did he come over to spout nonsense about helping the human desolate marshal, he even launched a sneak attack and ate the 10th prince of our Golden Crow race. Although I was not present, I can guess that it must be your 10th prince who provoked him first. Yin Lan sneered. Patriarch Jin Yen harumphed coldly. Even so, wasn't that child way too ruthless in his attacks? Your 10th prince is a half-martial ancestor and you have the cheek to seek vengeance after he was killed by a Dharma-characteristic Tao Lord. Yin Lan sneered once more. Let me tell you, even if Carefree was in the wrong, the Kuan race will punish him. Who do you think you are to come and want to teach our young master a lesson? Yin Lan's words were sharp and she did not give Patriarch Jin Yen any face at all. Chapter 1593, Auspicious Sky. Chapter 1593, Auspicious Sky. Yin Lan was truly enraged. If Carefree was an ordinary Kuan race being, it would be nothing much. However, Carefree's true form was the taboo Kuan Peng and he was watched over carefully by the entire Kuan race for fear that something might happen to him. If Patriarch Jin Yen truly injured Carefree, it would not be enough to salvage the situation even if the former was killed. Furthermore, Patriarch Jin Yen was an ancestor realm expert. The fact that he tried to deal with a Dharma-characteristic Tao Lord personally enraged Yin Lan completely. Patriarch Jin Yan's expression darkened completely as well. Although their cultivation realms were the same, he could not hold it in any longer after being scolded in front of everyone. That's enough. Patriarch Xinyu stood out and tried to smooth things over with a smile. Everyone take a step back. It's only understandable why Jin Yen might have done something a little extreme in his rage now that the Golden Crow 10th Prince is dead. Yin Lan were all part of the primordial 9 races. There's no need for us to get into a fight right away. Now that Patriarch Xinyu stood out, Patriarch Jin Yen did not continue to get entangled with Yin Lan even though he was unwilling. More importantly, he had no chance of winning against Yin Lan. The blood chi of the Kuan race was way too strong and vast like an ocean. Only the God race could match them. Patriarch Xinyu changed the topic. However, your young master of the Kuan race is young and probably doesn't know much about the cultivation world. Desolate Marshal is a great enemy for our primordial 6 races. Our primordial 6 races joined forces and released the killing badges. He's someone that must be killed. It's truly illogical for your young master of the Kuan race to want to protect him. Yin Lan, you came at the right time. Bring him back and teach him a lesson. Yin Lan was expressionless and only said slowly after Patriarch Xinyu was done, you guys can't kill Desolate Marshal. Carefree's intentions align with the Kuan race. Patriarch Xinyu narrowed his eyes. The reason why he did not want a conflict with the Kuan race was because he wanted to rope them in. To think that the Kuan race would be so tactless and stand on Desolate Marshal's side. The other 4 patriarchs of the primordial races had hostile expressions as well. Does that mean that the Kuan race is bent on becoming enemies with the primordial 6 races? Patriarch Wu Tian asked coldly. You're making things sound too serious. Yin Lan said, the Kuan race only wants to protect Desolate Marshal. As for the others, the Kuan race won't interfere. Fu. Patriarch Tsang Ming smiled and the heavenly eye on his glabella seemed like it was about to open. Killing intent filled the air as he said coldly, the Kuan race alone won't be able to protect someone that our primordial 6 races want to kill. Yin Lan took a deep breath and said slowly, we'll do our best. Right then, the lotus petals that bloomed on the top of the creation green lotus in the battlefield suddenly began to wither and fall. The entire creation green lotus was withering as well. The breakthrough of Desolate Marshal's green lotus true body failed? Throughout history, only the ancient Buddha Emperor could nurture a grade 8 creation green lotus. However, Desolate Marshal attempted to nurture a grade 8 creation green lotus although he's only a half-martial ancestor. It's only logical for him to fail. How can the advancement from grade 7 to grade 8 be so easy? This is the outcome of overestimating oneself. The living beings of the 10,000 races shook their heads, some in pity and some sneering. In midair, Patriarch Xinyu and the others exchanged glances and heaved a sigh of relief. If Desolate Marshal died just like that, it would save them the trouble of attacking. What should we do? Little Fox was so anxious that she was about to cry. Will something happen to young master after the failure of the creation green lotus's advancement? Monkey and the others were silent with grim expressions. The creation green lotus was Su Zimo. Su Zimo was the creation green lotus. If the creation green lotus withered, there was a high chance that Su Zimo would die as well. Patrons, you don't have to worry. Right then Ming Zhen's voice sounded in Monkey and the others' minds. The creation green lotus steals the creation of heaven and earth. Every single advancement requires a reincarnation and transformation. As though it was proving Ming Zhen's words, a burst of life force surged forth from the green lotus that was almost withered. Tender green leaves grew from the petals of the withered lotus leaves once more. They were filled with vitality and grew at an extremely fast speed. The aura of the creation green lotus rose continuously. The living beings of the 10,000 races were shocked and their gazes landed on the creation green lotus. A pink flower bud appeared on the top of the creation green lotus. It was stained with sparkling dew and blossomed slowly in front of everyone. Outside, the largest circle of lotus petals blossomed. Immediately after was the second circle of lotus petals. The third circle. Even at the seventh circle it did not stop. All the living beings of the 10,000 races could clearly see that there was a final circle of lotus petals that had yet to blossom on the lotus platform. Immediately after, the eighth circle of lotus petals blossomed and a resplendent glow filled the air. Instantly the world shook. Suddenly, jade-like green lotus flowers descended from the skies and floated, descending upon Enigma Palace in a vast and spectacular manner. The living beings of the 10,000 races were dumbfounded. It's an auspicious sign from the skies. Patriarch Xinyu exclaimed as well. A grade 7 creation green lotus that had transformed into a grade 8 had actually attracted a universal phenomenon with an auspicious sign. Even the ancestor realm experts present had never seen such a phenomenon, let alone the living beings of the 10,000 races. More importantly, the ancestor realm experts present could sense a tremendous divine power from the falling lotus flowers. This? Patriarch Xinyu and the others were shocked. They naturally knew that this divine power was definitely not released by Desolate Marshal. The might of that divine power had probably surpassed lesser divine powers and was at the level of greater divine powers. However, the meaning implied by it was way too terrifying. If that divine power was born from the grade 8 creation green lotus to begin with, Desolate Marshal would not encounter any obstacles comprehending that greater divine power since he possessed the green lotus true body. For cultivators, comprehending divine powers required a long period of time to accumulate and comprehend. In between, one might encounter countless obstacles and difficulties. Many Mahayana patriarchs might need hundreds, thousands or even 10,000 years to comprehend a single divine power. However, Desolate Marshal did not have to comprehend it at all. That was because he was the creation green lotus. As long as he grew, he would naturally comprehend that greater divine power. Everything happened naturally. That greater divine power was equivalent to Desolate Marshal's innate talent. Look! Suddenly, a shout sounded from the crowd. The living beings of the 10,000 races pointed at the creation green lotus in the world with widened eyes that were filled with endless shock. The grade 8 creation green lotus had already bloomed completely and a figure sat on the jade green lotus platform. The person wore green robes and had black hair. His eyes were closed as he assumed a lotus position, placing his hands casually on his knees with his palms facing the skies. His skin was transparent and flawless. Under the falling of countless lotus flowers, the figure was like a divine being. He burst forth with a green glow and sat on the creation green lotus with an auspicious aura that could not be ignored. When the living beings of the 10,000 races saw that, they felt like prostrating. Chapter 1594, Arrival of Patriarchs. Chapter 1594, Arrival of Patriarchs. Suddenly, a violent gust of wind blew above the 9 heavens, causing the creation green lotus to sway left and right with a dim glow. The violent gust of wind rose suddenly, sharp as a blade and almost corporeal as it surged into Su Zimo's body through the top of his head. Ugh! On the lotus platform, Su Zimo's body swayed and he grunted, frowning slightly with a pained expression. That's the heavenly dipper wind. Divine power tribulation, the 3 calamities of Taoism. Heavens, Desolate Marshal is taking this opportunity to break through to the Mahayana realm. In the crowd, some half-martial ancestor experts recognized the origin of the violent wind above the 9 heavens and exclaimed. All the half-martial ancestor experts knew that human cultivators had to experience the divine power tribulation and the 3 calamities of Taoism if they wanted to advance to the Mahayana realm. Throughout history, there had been countless half-martial ancestor experts who died in the 3 calamities of Taoism. Prior to this, breakthroughs of major cultivation realms were filled with countless difficulties and dangers. However, none of them were known as tribulations. The reason why the three calamities of Taoism were called the divine power tribulation was because they had a slim chance of survival. There was almost no chance of survival if he failed. For many half-martial ancestors, when they sensed that they could not tide through the divine power tribulation, they even chose not to break through forcefully and instead waited for their lifespans to be exhausted before passing away. After all, they could still live for many years if they waited for their lifespans to be exhausted. If they failed the tribulation transcendence, they would die immediately. One did not only require shocking talent and a strong foundation, but also immense courage to attempt to break through to the Mahayana realm. The reason why the living beings of the 10,000 races were so shocked was because they had not expected that Su Zimo would choose to break through to the Mahayana realm at the 10,000 race meet while he was circled by strong foes. Even without anyone interfering, one would most likely die after experiencing the divine power tribulation. Furthermore, the primordial 6 races were watching him greedily awaiting a chance to kill him. Actually, it was not because Su Zimo wanted to break through here at this time. It was because after the Creation Green Lotus transformed to Grade 8, the Creation Lotus platform transformed as well and a steady stream of energy nourished the black-haired Essence Spirit. The energy was way too vast and the black-haired Essence Spirit could not take it at all. His cultivation realm could not hold it back anymore and he had to break through. Buzz. The heavenly eye on Patriarch Tsangming's glabella suddenly opened and released a dark light that sped towards Su Zimo who was undergoing tribulation. There was no way the patriarchs of the primordial races would watch Su Zimo advance to the Mahayana realm. They had to interrupt Su Zimo no matter if he could succeed in his tribulation transcendence. Suddenly, another divine power descended. A gigantic ice barrier that seemed like 1,000 blades were stacked on it appeared in front of the dark light and blocked it. True Jade appeared before Su Zimo. Her attention had always been on Su Zimo. The moment Patriarch Tsangming acted strangely, she had already sensed it and attacked right away. Crack, crack, crack. Although the ice barrier blocked the power of the heavenly eye, cracks appeared on the ice barrier and it collapsed instantly. As a patriarch, you actually ambushed someone who was completely unprepared. How despicable. True Jade said coldly. Sister, hurry and help. Nothing must happen to Master. Carefree had a nervous expression and hurriedly sent a voice transmission with his spirit consciousness. Yin Lan nodded slightly and leaped up as well, standing shoulder to shoulder with True Jade as she looked at Patriarch Xinyu and the other 4. Patriarch Wu Hua and the others stood up one after another and surrounded Su Zimo in the middle. All of them had grim expressions as they wielded their destiny-dermic weapons. Leave that white-bloused woman to me. The Rakshasa Patriarch Liang smirked and licked his lips as he looked at True Jade. Patriarch Xinyu nodded slightly. Leave Yin Lan to me. As for the remaining 10 human patriarchs, don't worry. Patriarch Jin Yen said coldly, if the 3 of us attack with our full strength, all 10 of them will die here in less than an hour. Wu Hua give up. Right then, cracks appeared in the void and many Mahayana patriarchs of the human race walked out one after another. They were from Heavenly Dipper Sect, Malevolent Earth Sect and even Penglai Island. One after another, in front of everyone, the number of Mahayana patriarchs from the 3 super sects had already exceeded 100. Among them there were not only early-stage Mahayanas, but mid-stage and even late-stage and perfected Mahayanas. With so many Mahayana patriarchs descending in Enigma Palace, the living beings of the 10,000 races realized that this 10,000 race meet was no longer something they could control. With so many Mahayana patriarchs descending in Enigma Palace, the living beings of the 10,000 races realized that this 1,000-year meet was no longer something they could control. Roar. Howl. A series of earth-shaking roars sounded. From the south, a gigantic peacock sped over. Although it was 1,000 feet tall, it was unusually agile and every single one of its feathers shone with a strange glow. It was from one of the 8 demon regions, demon ancestor Kong Ling of Peacock Ridge. From the west, a gigantic spider with 8 legs moved towards Enigma Palace with dust billowing. 1,000 Spider Sandune, demon ancestor Zhu. From the east, a vermilion glow filled the skies and arrived before them in the blink of an eye. It was an eagle with scarlet wings that looked extraordinary. Eastern region, demon ancestor Scarlet Feather. From the north, demonic chi rumbled and a lion with long golden fur appeared in the mountain range, roaring into the skies. Wild Lion Ridge, Demon Ancestor Wild Heaven. Gradually, people from the 8 demon regions arrived one after another. All of them were experts of the Demon Ancestor realm. Matriarch Yu Luo, Patriarch Fei Duan, Patriarch Su Jing, you guys. Patriarch Wu Hua was shocked when he saw the more than 100 Mahayana patriarchs of the 3 super sects, Heavenly Dipper sect, Malevolent Earth sect and Penglai Island rushing over. Some of these Mahayana patriarchs were Ancestor realm experts who had been famous for a long time. They even left their marks on the Divine Power ranking. Emperors were not listed on the Divine Power ranking. In other words, all 36 names on the Divine Power ranking were Mahayana patriarchs. For example, Matriarch Yu Luo of Heavenly Dipper sect was ranked 34 on the Divine Power ranking. Patriarch Fei Duan of Malevolent Earth sect was 27 on the Divine Power ranking. Patriarch Su Jing of Penglai Island was ranked 21 on the Divine Power ranking. Those 3 were perfected Mahayanas. Each of them had comprehended more than 10 greater divine powers. Matriarch Yu Luo, what's the meaning of this? Patriarch Wu Hua asked in a deep voice. Nothing much. Matriarch Yu Luo was a middle-aged beauty and carried a snow-white cat in her embrace, fondling the latter's head from time to time. She replied indifferently, we're here to partake in the 10,000 race meat of course. Patriarch Xinyu and the others exchanged glances when they saw that. With smiles on their faces, they were in no hurry to attack. Malevolent Earth sect's Patriarch Fei Duan had a cold expression. Wu Hua, make way. Desolate Marshal has to die today. On what grounds? Patriarch Wu Hua said in a deep voice. What did Desolate Marshal do wrong to deserve so many Mahayana patriarchs bent on taking his life? Don't forget, Desolate Marshal once established the martial Dao and imparted martial arts to all living beings. Even you and I can't compare to his contribution to the human race. However, he still has to die. Patriarch Su Jing of Penglai Island said, the feud between us and the primordial 6 races can only be temporarily put aside after Desolate Marshal's death. Only then can the 10,000 race meet be held smoothly. Chapter 1595, Who Dares to Kill Me? Chapter 1595, Who Dares to Kill Me? This time round, even True Jade's expression changed. She was only at the mid-stage Mahayana realm and had yet to comprehend any greater divine powers. She could not even defend against some of the late-stage Mahayanas at the back, let alone the 3 experts on the divine power ranking at the front. The strongest experts of Tianhuang mainland were still drawn to this 10,000 race meet in the end. These Mahayana patriarchs were usually in seclusion in the ancient battlefield comprehending divine powers. Unless their sects were met with a calamity, they would not appear in Tianhuang mainland. To think that more than 100 of them would arrive together today. Yin Lan frowned as well. Although she was from the Kuan race, she was only an early-stage Mahayana and did not have much of a chance of winning against late-stage human Mahayanas. Fellow Taoists. Patriarch Wu Hua cupped his fists towards the 100-odd Mahayana patriarchs on the other end and said in a deep voice, even if we kill Desolate Marshal, the primordial 6 races won't negotiate with us. Desolate Marshal isn't the only reason for today's matter. Suddenly, Patriarch Wu Tian said, however, if you want to negotiate, you have to let our primordial 6 races see the sincerity of the human race. If you can't even bear to kill a half-martial ancestor Desolate Marshal, where's the sincerity of the human race? Did you hear that? Matriarch Yu Luo caressed the kitten in her embrace and said indifferently, there's a chance for us to sit down and negotiate with the primordial 6 races after killing Desolate Marshal. However, you won't even get that chance if you don't kill Desolate Marshal. Patriarch Su Jing said, since Desolate Marshal has the guts to impart martial arts to all living beings, there's nothing wrong with him sacrificing himself to fulfill the wishes of the human race. That's right. Patriarch Fei Duan nodded as well. Killing Desolate Marshal alone will prevent us from killing one another and might even prevent us from fighting the primordial 6 races. What's there to hesitate about? Although those words were nauseating, those 3 patriarchs were completely indifferent and spoke as though it was only logical. Bullshit. Patriarch Wu Hua sneered. To think that the 3 of you who are human patriarchs who are even ranked on the divine power ranking can spout such shameless words. What's the delay for? Hurry and kill Desolate Marshal. Demon Ancestor Zhu Fa of Thousand Spider Sand Dunes sneered. That's right. Demon Ancestor Kong Ling nodded slightly as well. The 1,000 demon meat is a rare opportunity. We can't let a single person ruin this grand event. The other demon ancestors expressed their stance as well. Apart from the Wild Lion Ridge's demon ancestor Wild Heaven who said nothing, the other demon ancestors of the 8 demon regions agreed to kill Desolate Marshal. Right then, the heavenly dipper wind that surged above the 9 heavens above the creation green lotus dissipated. Su Zimo healed the wounds in his body rapidly and his trembling body gradually calmed down. As the many patriarchs conversed, Su Zimo had already passed the first tribulation of the 3 calamities of Taoism. After the wind tribulation was the fire tribulation. If he could not tide through the wind tribulation, there was a chance he could survive. However, if he failed the fire tribulation, he would be burned into ashes without a corpse left. It was no ordinary fire but the malevolent earth fire. Born from beneath one's feet, it shot through their glabellas and penetrated their entire bodies, burning their organs, meridians, limbs and orifices. It was the most dangerous. Swoosh! The malevolent earth fire surged and burst forth from Su Zimo's body. In the blink of an eye, it engulfed his entire body and burned furiously. Right then, Su Zimo slapped his storage bag and took out a black but exquisite fruit. Ah, that seems to be malevolent spirit fruit. All the living beings of the 10,000 races watched this scene and exclaimed when they saw the fruit. 4 half-martial ancestor experts, the malevolent spirit fruit was way too attractive. It was practically a supreme treasure. That was because in the second stage of the divine power tribulation, the malevolent earth fire tribulation, consuming a malevolent spirit fruit would increase the chances of tribulation transcendence by at least 30%. For ordinary cultivators, the malevolent spirit fruit was completely useless and was merely a poisonous fruit. However, consuming it during the tribulation transcendence would neutralize the malevolent earth fire in one's body. It was extremely mysterious. Be it humans or demons, any half-martial ancestor expert would be envious. However, the moment they recognized the malevolent spirit fruit, it was devoured by Su Zimo. Sigh. The living beings of the 10,000 races sighed internally. When they saw that, Patriarch Xinyu and the others frowned slightly with impatient expressions. What are you guys waiting for instead of killing Desolate Marshal? Patriarch Xinyu glared at Matriarch Yuluo of Heavenly Dipper sect and hollered. Although Matriarch Yuluo's cultivation and combat strength were stronger than Patriarch Xinyu, at that moment she lowered her head and acknowledged softly, not daring to refute. Wu Hua. Matriarch Yuluo said coldly, don't blame us for attacking if you guys refuse to move still. How dare you? Patriarch Wu Hua hollered with widened eyes. Enigma Palace has top-tier ancestor realm experts as well. If you dare to attack, Enigma Palace won't be helpless either. Yufu, seems like you haven't figured out the situation yet. Patriarch Su Jing sneered, even the power of Enigma Palace's support won't be able to protect him today. Desolate Marshal will definitely die today. Patriarch Fei Duan had a menacing expression and waved his hand with a ferocious gaze. Kill? Who dares to kill me? Right then, a loud roar sounded from the distant skies, shaking the 9 heavens and shocking the world. Roar. A deafening roar sounded, resembling a dragon's roar and a phoenix's cry. It was unparalleled and penetrated metal and rocks, shaking the entire world. When the roar sounded, the living beings of the 10,000 races felt a sense of trepidation and looked over instinctively. Bang, bang, bang. A series of dull sounds could be heard. Each time it sounded, the ground would quake and countless gravel would bounce from the ground. On the distant horizon, gigantic figures appeared with bare upper bodies. Their auras were terrifying and majestic, resembling unshakable mountains. Those tall living beings were striding towards Enigma Palace. A single stride could cross an entire mountain range. It was one of the primordial 9 races, the barbarian race. Goddess Xiaoxiang of the god race stood up with a delighted expression and clenched her fists. It's my firmament sovereign. He brought the barbarian race with him to the 10,000 race meet. Oh. The 7th prince, Savage Eye Young Master Arcane Ghost, Rakshasa Yu and the others turned to look. Goddess Xiaoxiang said proudly, the reason why the firmament sovereign did not come with me was because he had a heavy responsibility to head to the barbarian race and persuade them to join forces with us. Now that the barbarian race has appeared, it means that he succeeded. Amazing. Impressive. The 7th prince, Young Master Arcane Ghost and the others cupped their fists and praised. But what was that dragon roar earlier on? Rakshasa Yu frowned slightly and asked. Roar. Right then, another series of high-pitched dragon roars sounded from behind the tall figures of the barbarian race. One after another, gigantic divine dragons soared through the clouds. There were hundreds of them spiraling above the barbarian race and speeding towards Enigma Palace. Their leader was a scarlet illumination dragon. On the illumination dragon's neck sat a man with scarlet hair that burned like flames and a blazing gaze. He had a torrential aura and looked down at everyone, emitting a scorching might. He looked exactly the same as Su Zimo. The dragon phoenix true body had arrived at Enigma Palace. Chapter 1596, You'll be the first I kill. Chapter 1596, You'll be the first I kill. This was the first time the Dragon Phoenix and Green Lotus true bodies had reunited after the battle at Heaven and Earth Valley. All the living beings of the 10,000 races had heard that desolate marshal of the cultivation world had two true bodies. One of them even became the young master of the dragon race. However, not many people saw the two true bodies gather personally. Of course, apart from the primordial 6 races and Penglai Island, the other races, including the cultivation world, did not know that the Dragon Phoenix true body had already grown into a taboo. In their understanding, they thought that Long Mo was merely a pure dragon. This is Desolate Marshal's dragon true body? There's indeed no difference in his appearance. However, there's an extremely huge difference in his aura. Green Lotus true body, dragon true body, which is Desolate Marshal's prime body. I'm not sure. It should be the Green Lotus true body. The living beings of the 10,000 races discussed. This is going to be interesting. Desolate Marshal's dragon true body is leading the dragon race over. They are going to fall out with the primordial 6 races completely. He's just a dragon and it'll probably make no difference. That's right. From what the god race said, it seems like the barbarian race is going to join forces with the primordial 6 races. No matter what, given Desolate Marshal's character, there'll probably be a fierce battle. The aura of this dragon true body, the ancestor realm. When the dragon phoenix true body approached, a cultivator finally sensed it and exclaimed, Desolate Marshal's dragon clone has already entered the Mahayana realm. Patriarch Xinyu and the others narrowed their eyes as well and glared at the dragon phoenix true body with wary expressions. Although they were all at the early stage Mahayana realm, the primordial races knew in their hearts that the true form of the dragon phoenix true body was a primordial taboo. We might not be a match for him in a one-on-one fight. Patriarch Xinyu sent a voice transmission secretly, let's be careful. If the dragon phoenix really dares to attack, the 5 of us should be able to suppress him. Yes. Patriarch Jin Yan and the others nodded in silence. Patriarch Wu Tian sneered, it's fine, they're still the human patriarchs of Heavenly Dipper sect. Let them play with that taboo. The 5 patriarchs of the primordial races conversed secretly. In the blink of an eye, hundreds of barbarians had already arrived at Enigma Palace and the young master of the barbarian race was none other than Manhu. Behind Manhu were many mighty figures of the barbarian race and some half-martial ancestors. So many ancestor realm experts. The barbarian race was alarmed when they arrived at Enigma Palace. Because of the breakthrough of the Dragon Phoenix true body, they were half a day slower and had just arrived. However, they had not expected that the situation here would change drastically the moment they arrived at Enigma Palace. The conflicts had escalated continuously and many patriarchs had already appeared. The dragons followed closely behind and descended in their human forms. The illumination dragon beneath the dragon phoenix true body was Solitary Cloud who had once followed him. Behind the dragon phoenix true body, Long Tsang, Long Shi and the others were strikingly present as well. Among them were some half-martial ancestors of the dragon race. Interesting. A patriarch of Heavenly Dipper sect sneered, Desolate Marshal has 2 true bodies. His true body of the dragon race broke through to the Mahayana realm even before his true body of the human race. Right now I'm confused. Desolate Marshal, are you a human or a dragon? Those words were meant to kill. The gaze of the Dragon Phoenix true body shifted to the Patriarch of Heavenly Dipper sect and asked expressionlessly, were you the one who wanted to kill me earlier on? So what if I was? When the Patriarch of Heavenly Dipper sect saw that he had many patriarchs around him, he was naturally fearless and raised his head slightly, refuting without fear. All right. The Dragon Phoenix true body nodded. You'll be the first I kill. Before his sentence was finished, The Dragon Phoenix true body flashed and crossed dozens of feet in the blink of an eye. He arrived before the Patriarch of Heavenly Dipper sect and extended his palm. Clang, clang. Sharp dragon claws extended from his fingertips and grabbed the head of the Patriarch of Heavenly Dipper sect. The Patriarch of Heavenly Dipper sect reacted extremely quickly and released a lesser divine power right away, attacking the Dragon Phoenix true body. The Dragon Phoenix true body smirked and did not dodge or avoid. The dragon claws merely grabbed gently and crushed the lesser divine power. The Patriarch of Heavenly Dipper sect's expression changed and his pupils constricted. Instinctively he wanted to summon his destiny dermic weapon. However, the Dragon Phoenix true body was extremely fast and did not give him a second chance. His palm descended and crushed the Patriarch's head. The Patriarch's body was like paper against the Dragon Phoenix true body's dragon claws. It was pierced with ease and the Patriarch's essence spirit was crushed. Even if that Patriarch of Heavenly Dipper sect possessed blood rebirth, it was absolutely useless with his essence spirit destroyed. Under countless gazes, the Mahayana Patriarch of Heavenly Dipper sect was crushed by the Dragon Phoenix true body like an ant. The other Patriarchs of Heavenly Dipper sect were not far away but none of them could react to it. There were more than 100 Mahayana Patriarchs. Among them, there were some at late stage and 3 at the perfected Mahayana realm. They had not expected that the early stage Mahayana Dragon Phoenix true body would attack so decisively without any reservations under such circumstances. Matriarch Yuluo, Patriarch Fei Duan and Patriarch Su Jing were still wary of the dragon race. The 3 patriarchs looked towards Patriarch Xinyu and the others instinctively. Patriarch Xinyu and the others nodded slightly, indicating that they could fight without any reservations. Matriarch Yuluo and the other 2 were relieved. Should I call you Desolate Marshal or Long Mo? Matriarch Yuluo caressed the kitten in her embrace and asked with a fake smile. The gaze of the Dragon Phoenix true body landed on the white cat's face instinctively and met its eyes. For some reason his heart stirred. It was an extremely uncomfortable feeling. The white cat did not have any cultivation aura and could not speak in human tongue. However, there was a strange expression in its eyes. The Dragon Phoenix true body shook his head gently and did not think too much about it. He swept past Matriarch Yuluo and the others with a cold expression and asked once more, "Who else wanted to kill me?" A patriarch of malevolent earth sect who had already received the order that he could attack freely sneered, "Long Mo, don't be arrogant. This is not the Dragon Bone Valley. Your dragon race doesn't call the shots here. We were the ones who wanted to kill you earlier on." A patriarch of Heavenly Dipper sect stood out and said in a deep voice, "If you still dare to attack, don't blame us for joining forces to suppress you." "All right." The Dragon Phoenix true body nodded. "Since you guys dare to admit it, I'll dare to kill you." Of course, the reason why the Dragon Phoenix true body attacked Heavenly Dipper sect, Malevolent Earth sect and Penglai Island first was not only because the 3 major sects wanted to kill the Green Lotus true body. Most importantly, the 3 major sects had already submitted to the primordial 6 races. That was something Su Zimo could not endure. Boom. The Dragon Phoenix true body stomped on the ground and leaped down from the skies. The blood chi in his body surged and he fell into the crowd. Chapter 1597 36 Transformations. Chapter 1597, 36 Transformations. The scarlet-haired figure with a berserk aura fell heavily into the crowd and the living beings of the 10,000 races looked up instinctively with shocked expressions. That was no ordinary crowd, it was a crowd of Mahayana Patriarchs. Those were almost top-tier experts of Tianhuang mainland. Under normal circumstances, any patriarch that appeared would cause the entire cultivation world to tremble. Furthermore, more than 100 Mahayana patriarchs were gathered. Even Patriarch Xinyu and the other 5 of the primordial races did not have the same guts and boldness. If those 100-odd Mahayana patriarchs released a single lesser divine power each, the combined might would be enough to destroy the world. Boom. Scarlet flames burned on the Dragon Phoenix true body and he fell into the crowd like a gigantic fireball. Disperse. Many Mahayana patriarchs could sense the power of the flames on the Dragon Phoenix true body and dodged one after another, not daring to take it head-on. All Mahayana patriarchs were paragons and monster incarnates who had experienced countless life and death battles. Many of them steadied themselves swiftly and surrounded the Dragon Phoenix true body with cold, murderous expressions. Matriarch Yuluo, Patriarch Fei Duan and Patriarch Su Jing stood at the outer perimeter and had no intention of attacking. Although the primordial races were strong, the Dragon Phoenix true body was only at the early stage Mahayana realm. In their opinion, more than 100 Mahayana patriarchs were enough to suppress the Dragon Phoenix true body. Patriarch Su Jing hesitated slightly. He knew the background of the Dragon Phoenix true body. However, on second thought, he realized that there were many mid- and late-stage Mahayana patriarchs among the 100-odd present. One had already comprehended greater divine powers by the time they reached the late-stage Mahayana realm. No matter how strong a primordial taboo was, he could not fight against everyone single-handedly. If he was an ordinary primordial taboo, he might not have been able to defend against the encirclement of more than 100 Mahayana patriarchs as they had expected. However, the Dragon Phoenix true body was not merely a taboo. The Dragon Phoenix true body even possessed Dai Yu's inheritance and cultivated the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness. This mystic classic helped the Dragon Phoenix true body awaken an incomparably powerful divine power when he was at the half-martial ancestor realm. Wind Summoning, Hell Dao, Hungry Ghost Dao, Avalanche, Earth Splitter, Thunder Strike, Scorching Ground, Eclipse. More than 100 Mahayana patriarchs attacked one after another and released their divine powers. Instantly, more than 100 divine powers descended and the entire void collapsed. Cracks appeared and began to distort, creating layers of storms as though the apocalypse had arrived. The Dragon Phoenix true body channeled his blood chi and the flames in his body spread with a bright flare. It was the divine phoenix flame. That was the innate divine power of the taboo Dragon Phoenix. After entering the Mahayana realm, the power of this innate divine power was enough to incinerate any lesser divine powers. The cultivation methods of the primordial races and taboos were extremely different from humans. Because humans were innately weak, they had to cultivate various Dao techniques, secret skills and even comprehend divine powers to strengthen themselves. As for the primordial races and taboos, even if they did not cultivate any cultivation techniques, their strength would increase as they grew. For example, after the primordial races entered the Mahayana realm, they could fight against mid-stage human Mahayanas or even suppress them with their own strength and innate divine powers without comprehending any lesser divine powers. Although the attacks of the 100-odd lesser divine powers were ferocious, they were incinerated instantly when they encountered the Dragon Phoenix flame. The Dragon Phoenix flame was a flame that was even more domineering and terrifying than the Divine Phoenix flame. Many Mahayana patriarchs looked at this scene in shock. The combined attack of more than 100 Mahayana patriarchs was resolved just like that. Roar! The Dragon Phoenix true body burned with raging flames as he reared his head and howled into the skies, letting out a deafening roar. Instantly, silence reigned. Against that roar, the clamor of the 10,000 race meat seemed to have fallen into silence instantly. That shuddering sound was the only thing left in the ears of the living beings of the 10,000 races. Many living beings could not withstand the pressure from the roar and knelt on the ground. It was a fear that came from the depths of their bloodlines. Notwithstanding them, even Patriarch Xinyu and the other four felt shudders and looked pale. Some of the Mahayana patriarchs that were closer clutched their ears instinctively with pained expressions. However, blood still flowed out from the gaps between their fingers. Blood spurted out from their noses and mouths like arrows as well. Bang, bang, bang. 8 balls of blood mist burst forth from the void around the Dragon Phoenix true body. The fresh blood of Mahayana patriarchs splattered and blood chi spread. Ah! The crowd exclaimed. The places where the blood mists suddenly appeared were originally empty. Some of the places where the blood mists appeared were originally gravel or mud. However, to think that when the Dragon Phoenix true body roared, 8 Mahayana patriarchs would explode from those empty voids. A look of mockery flashed through the eyes of the Dragon Phoenix true body and he was not surprised. His spirit perception was strong and he had long sensed that there were some patriarchs hiding nearby. Those were Mahayana patriarchs of Hidden Death sect. Some of them used concealment divine powers and hid their auras completely. However, some of them released the 36 transformations and turned into gravel and mud that scattered around the Dragon Phoenix true body, looking for an opportunity to kill. The 36 transformations was a lesser divine power. By comprehending this lesser divine power, patriarchs could transform into many things. As long as they chanted internally in silence, They could transform into mountains, water, wooden stakes, rocks or equipment without any problems. However, they could not transform into living beings such as birds, beasts, flora or insects. If they wanted to transform further, they had to comprehend the 72 transformations. The 72 transformations was a greater divine power. Naturally, they could transform into birds, beasts, flora or insects by then. Of course, be it the 36 or 72 transformations, there were flaws in this technique. Furthermore, even the 72 transformations could not turn them into a living person. The epitome of the transformations came as a supreme divine power, myriad transformations. After comprehending that divine power, they could transform into every and anything. From the massive Kuan and dragon races to an insignificant speck of dust, everything could be done with a single thought. By comprehending that divine power, one could even transform into the same person. Even if the two of them were placed together, no one could differentiate between reality and illusion. The Mahayana Patriarchs of Hidden Death sect thought that they could hide in the chaos by releasing their concealment divine powers and 36 transformations. However, they did not expect the spirit perception of the dragon phoenix true body to be so strong that their bodies would explode from a single roar of the latter. Hidden Death sect cultivators specialized in assassination and their blood chi and physique were weak. They could not withstand the roar of the dragon phoenix true body at all. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. 8 essence spirits of the Hidden Death sect patriarchs escaped and wanted to attempt blood rebirth. Roar. The dragon phoenix true body opened his mouth and roared again. Poof, poof, poof. The essence spirits of the 8 Hidden Death sect patriarchs exploded on the spot and turned into nothingness. 8 Mahayana patriarchs were dead. Chapter 1598, Unstoppable. Chapter 1598, Unstoppable. Kill? Many Mahayana patriarchs were slightly stunned as they hollered and released many divine powers once more. They summoned dermic treasures one after another and smashed towards the dragon phoenix true body. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Many flying swords turned into streams of light that sped over at an extremely fast speed. They arrived instantly with sharp sword chi. The dragon phoenix true body sneered and his spirit consciousness moved, causing a chilling saber to appear in his palm. Dragon Soul Saber. The Dragon Soul Saber was a connate dermic treasure to begin with, but its cultivation realm had fallen. Now, after the dragon phoenix true body entered the Mahayana realm, he tempered the Dragon Soul Saber with divine powers while he was rushing over and raised the quality of the Dragon Soul Saber to the level of a dermic treasure. Su Zimo gripped the Dragon Soul Saber tightly and raised his arm. The blood chi in his body surged as he slashed forward. Swoosh. When the saber slashed down, a torrential wave seemed to surge in front of the Mahayana patriarchs. Countercurrent of the sea calming 5 stances. Suddenly, the color of the wave turned blood red instantly. The ocean had completely transformed into a blood sea with a chilling killing intent. Su Zimo's slash had fused the intents of Countercurrent and Azura Saber together, releasing an extremely terrifying impact. Although the flying swords were extremely sharp, the glow on them dimmed the moment they passed through the blood sea. Clang, clang, clang. The Dragon Soul Saber descended and slashed down the flying swords. The surrounding dermic treasures had already arrived. There was a towering mountain, a bedazzling jade hook, a mysterious silver needle, a sparkling treasure mirror. Many dermic treasures descended and blanketed the skies, almost forming an impenetrable trap. The expression of the dragon phoenix true body was unchanged as he gripped the Dragon Soul Saber with both hands and slashed at the void beside him. Boom, boom, boom. The surrounding blood sea was stirred by that slash and instantly formed a gigantic vortex that surged into the skies, circling around Su Zimo with a terrifying might. Many dermic treasures descended and fell into the blood sea vortex, causing their trajectories to deviate. All the dermic treasures missed. The blood sea vortex surged and grew. In the end, even the figure of the dragon phoenix true body vanished into the blood sea. Immediately after, the roars of dragons and tigers as well as the cries of apes and phoenixes could be heard from within the blood sea vortex. Terrifying figures appeared vaguely behind the blood sea, as though many domineering and violent demon kings had awakened. Rich and pure demonic chi burst forth from the blood sea vortex continuously, blanketing the skies of Enigma Palace. The next moment, one after another, massive demon beasts charged out of the blood sea towards the surrounding Mahayana patriarchs. There was the wild bovine demon king that plowed the heavens. There was the sanguine ape demon king that thumped its chest and howled. There was the rampaging divine steed demon king. There was the desolate ocean dragon king that could overturn rivers and oceans. Every single terrifying demon king had menacing claws and were lifelike. They glared with bloodshot eyes and a torrential killing intent. The demon kings charged into the crowd and released shocking lethality. A Mahayana patriarch of Heavenly Dipper sect channeled his divine power, wanting to knock back the incoming stone bear demon king. However, his divine power did not create any ripples when it landed on the stone bear demon king and was easily dissipated by the latter's thick fur. Although the stone bear demon king's body seemed clumsy and massive, it arrived before the patriarch of Heavenly Dipper sect in the blink of an eye and leaned forward. That was a killing move from the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness. When released, the stone bear demon king was fluid as water and possessed a divine might. In his shock, the Mahayana patriarch's body exploded instantly. A single push from the stone bear demon king shattered him into pieces. Before his essence spirit could escape, the stone bear demon king extended its massive bear paw and slapped down, slapping the essence spirit of the Heavenly Dipper sect patriarch to death. Another malevolent Earth sect patriarch wanted to kill the incoming Anaconda demon king with his dermic treasures and divine powers. However, the Anaconda demon king spiraled upwards and wrapped the malevolent Earth sect patriarch rapidly. Its body exerted strength and minced the body of the Mahayana patriarch. The Anaconda demon king opened its mouth and devoured the malevolent Earth sect patriarch. There was no chance for his essence spirit to leave his body. Heavens, what are those? The crowd exclaimed. All the living beings of the 10,000 races present were dumbfounded in shock. Although they had heard of the dragon phoenix true body, not many people had witnessed his capabilities. That should be Long Mo's bloodline phenomenon. A cultivator who had experienced the battle of Heaven and Earth Valley said sternly. However, the cultivator paused for a moment before continuing. That bloodline phenomenon seems to have turned even more terrifying than during the battle at Heaven and Earth Valley. I noticed that as well. Compared to the battle at Heaven and Earth Valley, there seems to be an additional demon king. In the crowd, there was a 6-tusked divine elephant that charged forward wildly and no Mahayana patriarch could stop it. Its 4 legs sprinted and the ground shook while dust billowed. Even some late-stage Mahayana patriarchs could not defend against the impact of the 6-tusked divine elephant in terms of strength. With every fling of its trunk, a Mahayana patriarch would definitely fall from midair. Its tusks danced and were sharper than any dermic treasure. The first cultivator pointed to a flash of golden light in the skies and suddenly said, "Not just one, there's 2 more." Screech. A sharp and clear howl sounded from the firmaments. A golden light descended in the crowd at an astonishing speed that the Mahayana patriarchs below could not react at all. When the golden light revealed its true form, it was a golden rock. 2 claws swiped down from the crowd and crushed the heads of the 2 patriarchs with extreme precision, killing their essence spirits instantly. 2 Mahayana patriarchs died on the spot. The reason why the dragon phoenix true body attacked was to intimidate and establish his dominance with the first blood. He wanted to tell everyone from Heavenly Dipper sect, Malevolent Earth sect and Punglai Island that they would not be able to survive even if they submitted to the primordial 6 races. The dragon phoenix true body did not test the Mahayana patriarchs at all and released his bloodline phenomenon right away. The 11 demon kings charged into the crowd and killed in all directions with an unstoppable might. Even some late-stage Mahayana patriarchs did not dare to go against them. Blood gushed out on the battlefield and broken limbs flew everywhere in a tragic manner. This was not the blood of ordinary cultivators. This was the blood of Mahayana patriarchs. This scene was even more tragic than the fight between the patriarchs of the primordial races and the 17 Mahayana patriarchs of Enigma Palace. Earlier on, only 7 Mahayana patriarchs of Enigma Palace died. However, the attack of the dragon phoenix true body caused 11 demon kings to charge into the crowd and start a massacre. The number of Mahayana patriarchs from Heavenly Dipper sect, Punglai Island and Malevolent Earth sect decreased significantly. In just dozens of breaths' time, there were less than 100 Mahayana patriarchs from the 3 super sects remaining. There were even more patriarchs who were injured. This was an unacceptable loss for the 3 super sects. The reason why they chose to submit to the primordial 6 races was because they wanted to survive. However, they did not expect that they would die even faster. Matriarch Yu Luo, Patriarch Fei Duan and Patriarch Su Jing were enraged. They could no longer stand it and attacked one after another. Chapter 1599, Background of the White Cat. Chapter 1599, Background of the White Cat. All three of them were at the perfected Mahayana realm. To cultivate to the perfected Mahayana realm, one had to comprehend at least 10 greater divine powers. The bloodlines, physiques and essence spirits of the three of them were many times stronger than the other patriarchs after experiencing the baptism of so many greater divine powers. Matriarch Yu Luo summoned her destiny dermic treasure, and it was a sword made of meteorite iron. It was extremely heavy and shone with the glow of stars as it descended like a meteor. Boom. That astral sword descended and pierced the Anaconda Demon King's body, locking it onto the ground. The Anaconda Demon King struggled furiously and roared into the skies, but it could not break free. Before long, the light of the Anaconda Demon King dimmed and its blood chi deteriorated before dissipating into the world. Those Demon Kings did not descend with their true forms to begin with, they were merely part of the Dragon Phoenix true body's bloodline phenomenon. Patriarch Fei Duan summoned a fiend Saber and beheaded the Wild Bovine Demon King. The Wild Bovine Demon King dissipated as well. Patriarch Su Jing summoned a gigantic gold and silver WRM scissors and threw it into midair. It even transformed into 2 WRMs. Snap. Snap. The pair of gold and silver WRM scissors was extremely sharp. With a crisp sound, the scissors closed and cut the speeding golden rock into 2, turning it into nothingness. After a series of attacks, the other demon kings were also on the verge of falling after being attacked by the divine powers and dermic treasures of the Mahayana Patriarchs. They were no longer a threat. Moon-eating heavenly hound. Matriarch Yu Luo's gaze landed on the Dragon Phoenix true body and she released a greater divine power without hesitation. In front of her, a gigantic heavenly hound appeared in the blink of an eye. It had a violent gaze and sticky saliva drooled from its mouth as it glared at the Dragon Phoenix true body not far away. Clearly, the heavenly hound had already treated the Dragon Phoenix true body as the moon. It wanted to devour the Dragon Phoenix true body. Malevolent spirit descent. Patriarch Fei Duan hollered softly and released his greater divine power as well. He channeled his spirit consciousness and seemed to be communicating with the 9 hells. A sinister and pitch-black malevolent aura surged beneath his feet and swiftly formed a tall figure. It was as though a fiend had crawled out from the depths of the 9 hells. The malevolent spirit let out a deep growl. As long as Patriarch Fei Duan's spirit consciousness moved, the malevolent spirit would lunge towards the Dragon Phoenix true body and rip it into pieces. Ocean-severing slash. Patriarch Su Jing waved his palm as though he had conjured a saber and slashed towards Su Zimo's head. There was the saying of using a saber to cut water. When released, even the ocean could be split into 2, let alone water. The Dragon Phoenix true body had a fearless expression and a burning gaze. Although the 11 demon kings had already dissipated, their demonic chi did not disperse. They surged towards the Dragon Phoenix true body and changed continuously behind him. Gradually, a terrifying living being was born from the scarlet demonic chi. It was a butterfly. The butterfly spread its blood-colored wings and hovered above Su Zimo's head. There were 2 bright moons imprinted on its wings, looking at Matriarch Yu Luo and the other 2 like a pair of cold eyes. The butterfly was only around 10 feet wide. No matter how one looked at it, it was extremely ordinary. However, for some reason when the blood-colored butterfly appeared, the 3 of them, including Patriarch Xinyu and the other 5, felt a sense of trepidation. It was as though a calamity was about to descend upon them the next moment. The heavenly hound was merely conjured by a greater divine power and did not possess sentience. It continued charging towards the Dragon Phoenix true body murderously. The malevolent spirit swayed its massive body and lunged forward as well. In midair, a cold saber beam descended as though it wanted to slice the ocean into 2. Suddenly, the blood-colored butterfly on the head of the Dragon Phoenix true body flapped its wings gently. The motion was almost imperceptible. However, it created a shocking storm. The void in front of the Dragon Phoenix true body distorted, changed, collapsed and caved in. The heavenly hound that lunged over had already arrived before the Dragon Phoenix true body. The Dragon Phoenix true body could clearly smell the stench emitted from the gigantic hound's mouth. However, the moment the blood-colored butterfly flapped its wings, the Heavenly Hound froze in midair. Immediately after, cracks appeared on Heavenly Hound's body. Initially there were only slight cracks. However, they spread rapidly and covered its entire body. Right in front of everyone, the Heavenly Hound exploded into nothingness. The malevolent spirit let out a tragic cry as well. Before it could approach, its entire body was riddled with holes and its malevolent aura dissipated. Even the stunning saber beam that could slice the ocean into two dissipated after the blood-colored butterfly flapped its wings. The three greater divine powers were blocked by the blood-colored butterfly. Pust. The living beings of the 10,000 races gasped in shock. The Dragon Phoenix true body was only at the early stage Mahayana realm, but he could fight against humans at the perfected Mahayana realm. That was beyond everyone's knowledge. The pupils of Matriarch Yuluo and the other two constricted and their expressions changed. Those were three greater divine powers. They were resolved just like that by a blood-colored butterfly. What sort of powers were these? The three of them looked bewildered and wary. As expected of a taboo bloodline, Patriarch Su Jing was secretly alarmed and snuck a glance at Matriarch Yuluo and Patriarch Fei Duan, already thinking of retreating. The other Mahayana patriarchs had long dispersed far away and did not dare to advance. Furthermore, they were prepared to escape at any moment. They could already tell that the Dragon Phoenix true body was not something they could contend against. Anyone who could cultivate to the Mahayana realm had to experience countless dangers, and nobody wanted to die here. Right then, the blood-colored butterfly on the head of the Dragon Phoenix true body dissipated gradually and vanished. The realm of the Dragon Phoenix true body was still too low, and he had only just entered the early-stage Mahayana realm. It was already the limit of the power of the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness for the blood-colored butterfly to defend against three greater divine powers. With a cold expression, Matriarch Yuluo caressed the white cat in her embrace. Even in this battle, she did not abandon the white cat and carried it in her embrace the entire time. That was because the white cat was her trump card to deal with Desolate Marshal. Initially she was in no hurry to use it. But now, the strength of the Dragon Phoenix true body had completely exceeded her expectations and she did not want to wait any longer. Desolate Marshal. Matriarch Yuluo lowered her head slightly and caressed the white cat in her embrace with a faint smile. Take a guess, what's the background of this white cat? The Dragon Phoenix true body narrowed his eyes slightly. Earlier on, he had already sensed that there was something wrong with the white cat. However, he could not pinpoint the exact reason. Speaking of which, it's a coincidence. Matriarch Yuluo said softly, I came out of seclusion and was prepared to take part in the 10,000 race meet. Along the way, I came across a young lady with decent endowment and wanted to take her in as my disciple. Unexpectedly, she already has a master and rejected me without hesitation. As a Mahayana matriarch, it's rare for me to have thoughts of taking in a disciple. However, I was rejected by a girl at the Void Reversion realm. Wouldn't it be a joke if word of it spread? Matriarch Yuluo smiled gently. I was a little angry, so I sent a divine power down her way and toured her into a white cat to calm her down. At that point, the expression of the Dragon Phoenix true body darkened completely. Chapter 1600 Two Choices. Chapter 1600 Two Choices. The white cat looked at the Dragon Phoenix true body not far away, as though it wanted to break free from Matriarch Yuluo's embrace. However, Matriarch Yuluo merely exerted slight strength in her palm and the white cat shuddered. Although it had a pained expression, it endured without saying anything. All the living beings of the 10,000 races were puzzled. They did not know why Matriarch Yuluo would suddenly talk about the white cat in her embrace. Only the Dragon Phoenix true body knew that the white cat in Matriarch Yuluo's embrace was his eldest disciple, Baiming Shui. He finally understood why there was a strange feeling in his heart when he saw the white cat. That was because the way the white cat looked at him was the same way Baiming Shui looked at him. Because the Dragon Phoenix true body was not the Green Lotus true body and had no true contact with Baiming Shui, he did not recognize her right away. Furthermore, even the Green Lotus true body wouldn't acknowledge it rashly after a single familiar gaze. There were 6 Taoists in the world. Heavenly Tao, Human Tao, Azura Tao, Beast Tao, Hungry Ghost Tao and Hell Tao. Among the 6 Taoists, the first 3 were the Tao of kindness. Once comprehended, they would become greater divine powers. The latter 3 Taoists were evil. Once comprehended, they would become lesser divine powers. If he could comprehend all 6 of them and fuse them together, it would be a supreme divine power, the 6 paths of reincarnation. The divine power Matriarch Yuluo used to turn Baiming Shui into a cat belonged to the beast Dao. Once casted, the beast Dao could turn humans into various beasts. Unless any other Mahayana patriarch used the greater divine power of the human Dao to liberate them into human again, it would be difficult for them to recover to their previous state. The beast Dao was one of the evil Daos and was extremely vile. Furthermore, a Mahayana patriarch attacked to deal with a void reversion personally. In the past, the most dangerous situation Su Zimo faced was back when he was at the void reversion realm. He was hunted by a half-martial ancestor personally and almost lost his life. But now Baiming Shui was targeted by a Mahayana patriarch. The Dragon Phoenix true body knew very well that Baiming Shui was experiencing such a calamity because of him. Matriarch Yuluo gripped the nape of the white cat gently such that the latter could not move as she said with a smile on her face still, "This void reversion girl seems to be called Baiming Shui. Desolate Marshal, do you know her?" "Ah." Before the Dragon Phoenix true body could say anything, Carefree exclaimed. Carefree stood up and glared at Matriarch Yuluo viciously with a murderous aura, wanting nothing more than to charge forward and devour her alive. "What are you doing? Sit down." Yin Lan frowned slightly and pushed Carefree back. "Sister, save that white cat." Carefree hurriedly sent a voice transmission, "Don't hurt that white cat." Yin Lan shook her head. "Even without that white cat, I can't defeat Matriarch Yuluo, let alone rescue that white cat safely." Carefree said with an anxious expression, "Ask the clan leader to come then. He'll definitely be able to save the white cat." "Don't be hasty." Yin Lan said, "Your master is the one who is the most anxious. Isn't he very capable? Let's see what he has up his sleeves." Upon hearing Matriarch Yuluo's words, the living beings of the 10,000 races gradually understood that Baiming Shui definitely had something to do with Desolate Marshal. Baiming Shui seems to be someone from the Baiming aristocratic family. She's Desolate Marshal's eldest disciple. "Ah, I remember now. In recent years, a monster incarnate that cultivated the martial Dao has risen and is extremely strong. It's said that she has already obtained Desolate Marshal's true inheritance. No wonder Matriarch Yuluo would attack a void reversion personally. Baiming Shui is in the hands of Matriarch Yuluo. Unless Desolate Marshal disregards her life, he'll probably have to compromise out of cautiousness." Many cultivators whispered. The Dragon Phoenix true body nodded. "Baiming Shui is my eldest disciple." "Oh." Matriarch Yuluo faked surprise. "What a coincidence." The Dragon Phoenix true body had a cold expression and merely looked at Matriarch Yuluo quietly. Matriarch Yuluo burst into laughter. "Desolate Marshal, this girl's talent is decent and I don't wish to hurt her. If you want to protect her, you'll have to agree to a few of my conditions." "Don't worry, my conditions won't make things difficult for you." The Dragon Phoenix true body was still silent. Matriarch Yuluo smiled and continued, "How about this? Don't say that I'm heartless, I'll give you a choice. Do you want your Green Lotus true body or your disciple? You can only choose one." After she said that, a commotion broke out in the crowd. How should he choose? The Green Lotus true body has not been easy to cultivate and is about to advance to the ancestor realm. Furthermore, it's the creation Green Lotus. How can he give it up? However, his eldest disciple has to die if he doesn't give it up. If Desolate Marshal chooses the Green Lotus true body, he'll probably have to bear the guilt of his disciple in the future. Although he didn't kill Baiming Shui, she died because of him. That's a truly vile move. If Desolate Marshal were to leave her in the lurch, his Dao heart would probably waver. Desolate Marshal either has to destroy his Green Lotus true body or his Dao heart. Many bystanders could tell of Matriarch Yuluo's sinister intentions. The white cat in Matriarch Yuluo's embrace suddenly struggled. Even if Matriarch Yuluo exerted strength in her palm, the white cat did not care and merely struggled with all its might with a resolute gaze. Matriarch Yuluo's fingernails were long. As the white cat struggled, her fingernails dug deep into its body, causing blood to flow out. Its snow-white fur was stained with blood. However, the white cat seemed like it could not feel any pain and was still resisting with all its might. The more it struggled, the more blood it bled. However, it refused to stop. In the palm of a Mahayana matriarch, the strength of this white cat seemed insignificant. However, it refused to give up and bit Matriarch Yuluo's palm. If its teeth were snapped, it would use its claws to scratch. If its claws were crippled, it would use its head to smash. Sigh. A cultivator sighed. To think that Bai Mingxue has such a tough personality. She doesn't want to implicate Desolate Marshal and wants to die. Senior sister. Carefree stood up and his vision gradually blurred as he exclaimed softly by instinct. A look of heartache and pity flashed through the Dragon Phoenix Truebody's eyes as he looked at the white cat that was struggling. An uneasy feeling surged through Matriarch Yuluo's heart. Coupled with the constant struggles of the white cat in her embrace, she felt a sense of frustration. She retracted her smile and her expression turned cold. Desolate Marshal, I've given you a chance. It's not a difficult choice. It depends on what you want to give up. My patience is limited, she said coldly. If this white cat truly pisses me off, I can kill her at any moment. As my disciple, Bai Mingxue will definitely encounter countless sufferings and dangers. I told her that before. The Dragon Phoenix Truebody finally spoke. However, those sufferings can't be overly excess. Yuluo, as a Mahayana matriarch, you attacked a void reversion personally. That's crossing the line. Want neither of the choices you gave me. The Dragon Phoenix Truebody looked at Matriarch Yuluo and paused for a moment before saying slowly, Tiel, make a third choice. Chapter 1601 Body Immobilization Technique. Chapter 1601 Body Immobilization Technique. Before his sentence was finished, two pairs of wings appeared behind the Dragon Phoenix Truebody. A pair of flames burned like the wings of a divine phoenix. Every single feather was like an arrow that was burned through with a crystalline luster. His other pair of wings were even larger and shone with a blinding golden light, identical to the wings of the golden rock. The Dragon Phoenix Truebody vanished on the spot instantly. A scarlet golden light flashed. When it reappeared, it was already in front of Matriarch Yuluo. It was too fast. Even though Matriarch Yuluo was long prepared, that speed had already surpassed her expectations. Since you don't want to give up on the Green Lotus Truebody, your eldest disciple will die because of you. Matriarch Yuluo hollered and exerted strength in her palm, wanting to kill the white cat in her embrace. Immobilize. The moment the scarlet golden light descended, the voice of the Dragon Phoenix Truebody sounded. A strange divine power descended on Matriarch Yuluo. That divine power was merely a lesser divine power that was comprehended by the Dragon Phoenix Truebody after he entered the Ancestor Realm. His inspiration came from the final stance of the Saber Emperor's inheritance, Sea Calming. The Saber intent of Sea Calming contained a divine power. When the Dragon Phoenix Truebody had just advanced to the Ancestor Realm, this was the most superficial divine power that was first comprehended, the Body Immobilization Technique. Matriarch Yuluo's expression changed. The power of the divine power could restrict her figure such that she could not move at all. Of course, the power of that divine power was not strong. She could break free from the influence of that divine power in the blink of an eye. However, the problem was that the Dragon Phoenix Truebody was extremely close. Naturally, the Dragon Phoenix Truebody did not expect that a perfected Mahayana like Matriarch Yuluo would be restricted to the spot and rendered immobile. What he wanted to do was for the Body Immobilization Technique to lock Matriarch Yuluo for an instant. In a fight between experts, an instant was all that mattered. A single thought was equivalent to a single moment. 20 thoughts was equivalent to an instant. For the Dragon Phoenix Truebody, this instant could not only protect Bai Mingxue's life, but also kill Matriarch Yuluo. As someone able to cultivate to the perfected Mahayana realm, Matriarch Yuluo was not someone easy to deal with and realized how terrifying this matter was right away. She knew that she had made a mistake and lost the initiative. If she killed Bai Mingxue, she might not get the chance to leave alive. Matriarch Yuluo's reaction was extremely fast and she even abandoned her body. Her essence spirit left her body and transformed into a streak of light, escaping into the distance. Bang! The moment her essence spirit left her body was smashed into pieces by the Dragon Phoenix Truebody and fresh blood flowed. If her essence spirit was a step slower, she might have been killed by the Dragon Phoenix Truebody. Matriarch Yuluo's essence spirit fled far away and channeled her spirit consciousness. In the blink of an eye, she conjured her body once more with a terrible expression. The Dragon Phoenix Truebody was in no hurry to kill her. Instead, he carried the white cat carefully. The moment the Dragon Phoenix Truebody's spirit consciousness moved, the wounds on Bai Mingxue healed at a visible speed. However, he did not have the means to restore Bai Ming Shui to her human form. Once released, the beast Tao was irreversible. There was no way to dispel it without the divine power of the human Tao. The dragon phoenix true body held the white cat with both hands and felt a sense of guilt. As though it could sense the guilt and self-blame in the dragon phoenix true body's heart, the white cat lowered its head and rubbed against his palm. Everyone present, does anyone know the human Tao greater divine power? I, Desolate Marshal, will definitely remember this favor. The dragon phoenix true body surveyed the surroundings and asked loudly. No one replied. The 6 Tao divine powers were considered as divine powers of the Buddhist monasteries and were difficult to comprehend without the deep foundation of the Buddhist monasteries. The dragon phoenix true body said softly, Bai Ming, my capabilities are limited right now and I can't transform you back yet. However, don't worry, I can help you vent your anger on whoever bullied you. With that said, the dragon phoenix true body turned around and glared at Matriarch Yuluo coldly in the distance. Bitch, how dare you? Swoosh. The dragon phoenix true body leaped and flapped his 4 wings, charging towards Matriarch Yuluo. Fellow Taoists Fei Duan and Su Jing, help me. Matriarch Yuluo was alarmed and called for help immediately. Patriarch Su Jing's gaze flickered and he stood on the spot without advancing rashly. On the other hand, Patriarch Fei Duan did not think too much about it and summoned his destiny dermic treasure, prepared to help. Right then, the skies darkened and a terrifying might descended, enveloping the skies of Enigma Palace. Patriarch Fei Duan looked over instinctively. The dragon phoenix true body had already vanished. In his place was a massive variant demon beast with a dragon's head and phoenix's tail. Its body burned with scorching golden flames and its claws were sharp. After the demon beast descended, the living beings of the 10,000 races felt an uncontrollable fear and shuddered. That aura was enough to stun all living beings of the 10,000 races. Even Patriarch Xinyu and the other 4 were silent with deep fear in their eyes. Patriarch Fei Duan was about to charge forward when he saw that. His legs went limp and his voice trembled. Taboo Dragon. Phoenix. The dragon phoenix true body was only at the early stage Mahayana realm. Given his combat strength, it was not impossible for him to fight the dragon phoenix true body. However, the fear towards taboos had long been embedded in his bones. Even the Mahayana patriarchs of the primordial races retreated in fear instinctively when they saw the primordial taboo, let alone him. It was only at that moment that the living beings of the 10,000 races realized that Desolate Marshal's true body was not the dragon true body, but the dragon phoenix true body. In this generation, 2 of the 3 primordial taboos had already been born. Apart from a few people, the other living beings did not realize that all 3 primordial taboos were present at the 10,000 race meet. Some cultivators with sharp eyes could see clearly that many scales on the back of the taboo dragon phoenix had stood up, forming a circle to deflect the surrounding flames. In the circle was a white cat. It was Desolate Marshal's eldest disciple, Bai Ming Shui. Even if Bai Ming Shui has been turned into a beast, it's worth it. That's right. Who in the world can ride on the back of a taboo dragon phoenix? Many living beings lamented. Patriarch Fei Duan recognized the origin of the taboo dragon phoenix and retreated stealthily, afraid that he would attract the attention of the dragon phoenix true body. There was no one beside Matriarch Yuluo on the battlefield. At that moment, Matriarch Yuluo's face was pale as well. She had not expected that she would provoke such a terrifying existence. Desolate Marshal, there must be some misunderstanding here. Matriarch Yuluo forced a smile and tried her best to explain. Her dominance and confidence from earlier on had vanished without a trace. You don't have to explain it to me. The dragon phoenix true body said coldly. Suddenly he opened his mouth and spewed out scarlet flames. To be precise, those were no longer flames but scarlet lava. After the evolution of the innate divine power, the dragon phoenix flame had already turned even more terrifying, turning into rumbling lava that poured down on Matriarch Yuluo. Chapter 1602, No Humiliation. Chapter 1602, No Humiliation. Frost Barrier. Matriarch Yuluo released a greater divine power right away and a chilling frost barrier was formed around her instantly. The entire frost barrier was formed like a gigantic ice crystal with defined edges. Shing. When the scarlet lava splashed onto the frost barrier, The two powers of ice and fire collided and green smoke billowed instantly with an ear-piercing sound. The lava slid down the frost barrier and engulfed Matriarch Yuluo completely. The light of the frost barrier flickered as well. The edges of the ice crystals had already been melted by the lava. However, the scorching lava could not penetrate the ice crystals completely. In this fight between two different powers, neither side yielded. The Dragon Phoenix true body had a cold expression and swooped down. He reached out with his gigantic, menacing Dragon Phoenix claws and dug into the gigantic ice crystals. Crack, crack, crack. Raging flames burned on the Dragon Phoenix claws as well. Like iron hooks that were burned red, the claws pierced the ice crystals instantly. Matriarch Yuluo's expression changed starkly when she saw that. If the frost barrier had no openings, it could hold out for a long time. But now that the barrier was pierced by the Dragon Phoenix true body, cracks appeared on the ice crystals and scorching lava began to seep in. She could not hold on for long. Roar! Right then, the Dragon Phoenix true body roared into the skies and flapped his wings. Flames surged as the Dragon Phoenix claws tore towards both sides. Once the taboo Dragon Phoenix released his full strength, given the sharpness of the Dragon Phoenix claws, he could even rip the massive body of the Kuan race into two. Snap! The Dragon Phoenix true body did not give Matriarch Yuluo any time at all. He tore the frost barrier apart and countless ice shards fell to the ground. Slash! Matriarch Yuluo channeled the astral sword in her hands and stabbed towards the Dragon Phoenix true body. The Dragon Phoenix true body did not dodge or avoid. He reached out with his Dragon Phoenix claw and ignored the sharpness of the astral sword, grabbing it in his palm. The other Dragon Phoenix claw descended and arrived above Matriarch Yuluo's head in the blink of an eye. The nails of the claw were sharp and cold. As long as he exerted strength, he could pierce Matriarch Yuluo's head. Victory was decided. Under the envelopment of the Dragon Phoenix claw, Matriarch Yuluo could not even send her essence spirit out of her body. She did not dare to act rashly. The Dragon Phoenix true body reverted to his human form and carried the white cat Baiming Shui had transformed into with his left hand. He pushed down Matriarch Yuluo's head with his right hand with a cold expression. Having cultivated to this point, Matriarch Yuluo did not wish to die. Although the Dragon Phoenix true body was decisive to kill, he did not kill her immediately. That gave her a sliver of hope. Desolate Marshal, I was wrong in this matter. Matriarch Yuluo gulped and forced a smile. However, I only used a divine power on Baiming Shui, but I did not kill her. Please show mercy and give me a chance. Many cultivators were emotional when they saw that. That was a Mahayana matriarch, a perfected one at that. If Matriarch Yuluo had not humiliated Baiming Shui and offended the Dragon Phoenix true body, she might even have the chance to tide through the tribulation transcendence and ascend to the upper world. However, at that moment, in order to survive, Matriarch Yuluo couldn't care less about her dignity and begged in front of the Dragon Phoenix true body. The Dragon Phoenix true body was expressionless as he asked, "If I give you a chance, who is going to give Baiming a chance? She can still recover." Matriarch Yuluo said hurriedly, "As long as there's a patriarch who comprehended the human Tao greater divine power, he can transform her back. I know that there's an accomplished monk like that in the Buddhist monasteries." Is that so? The Dragon Phoenix true body let go gently and placed Baiming Shui on the ground. He looked at Matriarch Yuluo. "Since you made a mistake, you have to be accountable." When she heard that, Matriarch Yuluo felt uneasy. "Kneel down and apologize to her." The Dragon Phoenix true body pointed at the white cat on the ground and said coldly, "What?" A furious look flashed through Matriarch Yuluo's eyes. She was a Mahayana matriarch. The fact that she had to plead humbly in front of everyone's watchful eyes was her bottom line. But now the Dragon Phoenix true body wanted her to kneel down and apologize to a white cat, a beast. Desolate Marshal. Matriarch Yuluo frowned and said sternly with widened eyes, "As a Mahayana matriarch, I have my dignity and pride. Even if I have to die here, I won't kneel to a beast." She could speak humbly and even swallow her pride to plead for mercy. However, if she were to kneel and apologize to a beast, even if she could survive, she would definitely become the laughingstock of the cultivation world. Her Tao heart could even collapse on the spot. "In my hands, you don't get to decide your own life and death." The Dragon Phoenix true body sneered, "Even if you want to die, you have to kneel down." The Dragon Phoenix true body extended his leg and tapped Matriarch Luo on the knees gently, causing the sound of bones cracking to ring out. Crack, crack, crack. Matriarch Luo's knee was shattered by the Dragon Phoenix true body and not a single bone was intact. Ah! Matriarch Luo cried in pain with a pale expression. The Dragon Phoenix true body exerted strength in his palm and pushed Matriarch Luo down. Thump. Matriarch Luo knelt on the ground and faced the white cat Bai Ming Shui transformed into. You. Matriarch Luo's face flushed red and she trembled in pain. She was grinding her teeth so badly they were about to shatter. However, her essence spirit could not break free from the control of the Dragon Phoenix true body. Since you refuse to apologize, I'll help you. Under countless gazes, the Dragon Phoenix true body pushed down Matriarch Luo's head and it landed heavily on the ground with a bang, kowtowing. A Mahayana matriarch was kneeling and kowtowing to a white cat. This desolate marshal is truly savage. This is even more ruthless than killing Matriarch Luo. A scholar can be killed but not humiliated. Isn't desolate marshal's actions a little overboard? Overboard? A cultivator shook his head gently. None of you can tell desolate marshal's intentions. What? The surrounding cultivators asked. Even if Bai Ming Shui has a chance to become a human again in the future, her experience this time round will definitely leave an indestructible scar in her Dao heart. The cultivator said, no matter how strong she will be in the future, everyone will remember one thing. Bai Ming Shui was once reduced to a beast. There's a high chance that this matter will become her mental demon. Many cultivators nodded. The cultivator continued, right now what Desolate Marshal is doing is to erase the scar in Bai Ming Shui's Dao heart. Furthermore, Desolate Marshal wants everyone in the world to see that although Bai Ming Shui was once reduced to a beast, the matriarch who dealt with her knelt and kowtowed in front of her. Although Bai Ming Shui was once reduced to a beast, she sat on the back of a taboo dragon phoenix and a Mahayana matriarch knelt and kowtowed to her. Who in the world has such an experience? Not only will this not become Bai Ming Shui's mental demon, it might even help her temper an even stronger Dao heart. Many cultivators were in deep thought. Another person said coldly, that's probably not Desolate Marshal's only intention. Desolate Marshal is also warning the living beings of the 10,000 races and all the experts of the world that his disciples can't be bullied. Otherwise that's the outcome. Mahayana Patriarchs are no exception. Chapter 1603, Slaying the Goddess. Chapter 1603, Slaying the Goddess. Bang, bang, bang. The Dragon Phoenix true body pushed Matriarch Luo's head into 3 kowtows. With every single sound, the living beings of the 10,000 races shuddered. After 3 kowtows, Matriarch Luo's forehead was already blood red. Desolate Marshal. Matriarch Luo shrieked, I'll fight you. She activated her secret skill and her essence spirit burned. An extremely domineering power burst forth from her body and she was almost about to break free from the control of the Dragon Phoenix true body. That was a suicidal secret skill. She could obtain immense power in a short period of time by burning her essence spirit. Poof. Unfortunately, the Dragon Phoenix true body did not give her the chance. The moment Matriarch Luo burned her essence spirit, the Dragon Phoenix true body had already extended his fingernails and pierced her head, assassinating her essence spirit. The 34th on the divine power ranking, the perfected Mahayana of Heavenly Dipper sect, Matriarch Luo, died in Enigma Palace with endless resentment. The Dragon Phoenix true body stood up slowly and surveyed his surroundings. None of the remaining dozens of Mahayana patriarchs dared to meet his gaze. Enigma Palace was silent. All the living beings present were stunned by the powerful methods of the Dragon Phoenix true body. Patriarch Jin Yan's spirit consciousness moved and he sent a voice transmission, as expected of a primordial taboo. His methods are way too ruthless. Thankfully, we have these patriarchs of the human race to take the blow for us. Otherwise, it won't be easy for the 5 of us to deal with it if we're suddenly faced with these attacks as well. Yes, let Long Mo kill these human patriarchs. The more intense their fight is, the more advantageous it will be for us. Patriarch Wu Tian said coldly, when Long Mo is almost done fighting with the remaining Mahayana patriarchs, he probably won't have many trump cards left. At that time, the 5 of us can kill him together. That's right. Patriarch Xinyu smiled gently. Desolate Marshal, there might have been some misunderstandings earlier on. Patriarch Fei Duan coughed gently and cupped his fists. We're also here to facilitate the peace talks with the primordial 6 races. We don't have any intention of targeting you, fellow Taoist. That's right, the 10,000 races are gathered for this 10,000 race meet. It's better for everyone to sit down and discuss lest there's another massacre, Patriarch Su Jing said with an embarrassed smile. In the face of the taboo dragon phoenix, even the 2 perfected Mahayana patriarchs, Fei Dian and Su Jing, had to bow down. Although they had submitted to the primordial 6 races, they were no fools. If they continued fighting the dragon phoenix true body, it would only result in an internecine outcome. The reason why the 3 super sects chose to submit to the primordial 6 races was because they wanted to protect their sect's legacy and their lives. But now, their 3 major sects had suffered immense losses before the 10,000 race meet even began. Patriarch Shen Yu and the others glared at Patriarch Fei Duan and the others with sharp gazes. However, the many patriarchs either lowered their heads or avoided their gazes, pretending to be ignorant. The gaze of the dragon phoenix true body swept past Patriarch Fei Duan, Patriarch Su Jing and the others. After a moment he nodded. All right, since you guys want to sit and talk, behave yourselves and sit obediently. Nobody is allowed to leave Enigma Palace without my orders. That's not a problem. The many patriarchs heaved a sigh of relief and returned from afar. They wanted to see the final outcome of this 10,000 race meet as well. Patriarch Fei Duan and the others finally relaxed. If the dragon phoenix true body wanted to continue with a massacre, they would have to escape from this place. When they saw that, Patriarch Shen Yu and the others frowned. Initially, they were waiting for the patriarchs of the 3 super sects and the dragon phoenix true body to continue fighting. It would be best if both parties were injured and they could reap the rewards. To think that both parties would stop. This caused the plans of Patriarch Shen Yu and the other 4 to be overturned instantly. The moment the dragon phoenix true body descended, he went on a massacre and suppressed the patriarchs of Heavenly Dipper sect and the other 2 super sections. His aim was to intimidate and establish his dominance. He did not expect to make the 3 super sects submit single-handedly. However, at the very least, the 3 super sects would not become latent dangers for the human race at the 10,000 race meet. Now that he had accomplished his goal, it was time for him to stop. The dragon phoenix true body knew very well that his true enemies and the true threat of the human race were the primordial 6 races. Man who? Right then, Goddess Xiaoxiang stood out and asked in a deep voice, "Where's the firmament sovereign?" "He went to the barbarian race." "Why didn't he come with you?" When the battle broke out earlier on, she scanned the crowd continuously but could not find any traces of the firmament sovereign. Now that the battle was paused, she could not help but stand out. This man who scratched his head with an awkward expression. He's dead. The dragon phoenix true body carried Baiming Shui and handed her to Long Shi. When he heard Goddess Xiaoxiang's question, he replied indifferently. What? Goddess Xiaoxiang was slightly stunned as she glared at the dragon phoenix true body and grit her teeth. Repeat yourself. The dragon phoenix true body turned around and walked towards the side of the god race with a calm expression, saying slowly, "Didn't you hear it clearly? I've already killed the firmament sovereign." Goddess Xiaoxiang shuddered as though she was struck by lightning. Young Master Arcane Ghost and the others were secretly speechless as they looked at Goddess Xiaoxiang with a strange gaze. Earlier on, she was still boasting about how the firmament sovereign shouldered the heavy responsibility of inviting the barbarian race over. From the looks of things now, it was uncertain whose side the barbarian race was on. Long Mo. Goddess Xiaoxiang's eyes were filled with endless hatred as she glared at the dragon phoenix true body and said coldly, "Don't be smug. One day my cultivation will definitely surpass you. I'll take revenge for the firmament sovereign personally and make you pay with blood." Why wait till then? The dragon phoenix true body had a calm expression and did not stop walking. He was getting closer to Goddess Xiaoxiang and said indifferently, "Since you guys are so close, I'll send you on your way right now so that you can reunite." Before his sentence was finished, the dragon phoenix true body swayed and strode forward. Boom, boom. The ground shook and the mountains trembled. That single stride seemed to cross dozens of feet. In the blink of an eye, the dragon phoenix true body had already arrived before Goddess Xiaoxiang and slapped down. "Watch out." Patriarch Shen Yu sensed that something was amiss and reminded hurriedly. However, it was too late. Goddess Xiaoxiang was only a half-martial ancestor. Against the Mahayana realm dragon phoenix true body right in front of her, she was completely helpless. You. Goddess Xiaoxiang only managed to utter a single word before the palm of the dragon phoenix true body slapped her on the head. Bang. Her peerlessly beautiful face was shattered by a single slap of the dragon phoenix true body, turning into a blood mist. Goddess Xiaoxiang's essence spirit was dispersed by that power and turned into nothingness. Goddess Xiaoxiang was dead. It was only then that the living beings of the 10,000 races realized what was happening as a series of exclamations broke out from the crowd. Many cultivators were shocked as well. Nobody expected that the dragon phoenix true body would suddenly turn to the god race and kill goddess Xiaoxiang on the spot after a ceasefire with Heavenly Dipper sect and the other two super sects. From the moment the dragon phoenix true body attacked till goddess Xiaoxiang's death, it only took a single breath. Even Patriarch Xinyu and the others could not save her in time. Before the dragon phoenix true body descended, the primordial 6 races were the ones in control of the situation and killed wantonly. However, the arrival of the dragon phoenix true body suppressed the flames of the primordial 6 races completely. Chapter 1604, Leave No One Alive. Chapter 1604, Leave No One Alive. Desolate Marshal. Patriarch Xinyu had a cold expression as he glared at the dragon phoenix true body and said coldly, "Both parties have already stopped and you're still killing. I think you don't want to negotiate peace with the primordial 6 races." "Of course we can negotiate." The dragon phoenix true body glared at Patriarch Xinyu and did not conceal the killing intent in his heart as he said slowly, "However, I'll only talk to the primordial 5 races, not the god race." "What do you mean by that?" Patriarch Xinyu's heart skipped a beat. "My meaning is simple. Sure, we can negotiate, but the prerequisite is that the god race has to be killed first." The moment the dragon phoenix true body said that, he leaped up and charged towards Patriarch Xinyu. All the living beings of the 10,000 races were secretly alarmed when they saw that. Prior to this, the primordial 6 races had already revealed their supreme methods and were extremely powerful. To think that after the dragon phoenix true body descended, he was more than 10 times stronger than the primordial 6 races and was even more ferocious. Swoosh. The dragon phoenix true body flashed and arrived before Patriarch Xinyu instantly. Bang. Bang. Their blood chi burst forth and they reached the tsunami blood realm instantly. However, the power of Patriarch Xinyu's blood chi was still rising. An ancient and mysterious pyramid appeared beneath him with millions of living beings kneeling and praying with reverence on their faces. Kill? Naturally, Patriarch Wu Tian, Patriarch Tsangming, Patriarch Jin Yen and Patriarch Liang would not stand by idly. They hollered and released 4 innate divine powers. Innate Curse. Eye of Storm. Sun Essence Fire. Hurricane Wings. A strange power descended in the consciousness of the dragon phoenix true body and enveloped the scarlet-haired essence spirit rapidly. The curse technique descended upon his consciousness out of nowhere and was impossible to defend against. However, the dragon phoenix true body ignored it. His consciousness was like a massive world. There was a vast land within with demon kings with terrifying auras. A wild bovine plowed the heavens and a divine elephant cried. Outside the land, there was a black ocean with a dragon king overlooking it. A gigantic spirit turtle was faintly visible in the surging waves. Even in the skies, there was a golden rock flapping its wings. Before the power of the curse could approach the scarlet-haired essence spirit, it was shattered into nothingness by the roars of the demon kings. Patriarch Tsangming's heavenly eye opened up and a violent storm was formed. There were electric arcs surging within, as though it could rip everything in the world into pieces. It was hard to imagine that the power of this divine power was conjured by a single eye. The heavenly eye opened and a storm descended. At the same time, Patriarch Jin Yen reared his head and howled into the skies, spitting out a stream of scorching golden flames that resembled the sun. Patriarch Liang released hurricane wings and his movement technique became even faster. He almost vanished from everyone's line of sight. Swoosh. He wielded 2 sabers and slashed towards the head of the dragon phoenix true body. Even though the dragon phoenix true body resolved the innate curse of Patriarch Wu Tian, there were still 3 divine powers that burst forth and were surging over. The dragon phoenix true body spirit consciousness moved and he waved his hands as the power of divine powers descended. A gigantic stone shield appeared in front of the dragon phoenix true body. Its surface was rough with complicated ravine patterns that were mysterious. It was the first of the 4 divine powers in the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness, the spirit turtle shield. Buzz. The dragon phoenix true body condensed his spirit consciousness and the ravines on the stone shield lit up, emitting a resplendent glow. Scram. The dragon phoenix true body covered his head with the stone shield and hollered. Boom. The storm, sun essence fire and Patriarch Li Ying's twin sabers struck the gigantic stone shield at almost the same time and let out a loud bang. The storm surged and the flames raged on the stone shield, but they could not penetrate its defense. Clang. When Patriarch Li Ying's sabers struck the stone shield, his body shuddered and he felt a terrifying recoil. He could not hold on to the 2 sabers with both hands and his palms were torn. The 2 sabers flew out of his hands. Patriarch Li Ying shrieked and retreated. Under the stone shield, the figure of the dragon phoenix true body had already vanished. After he released the divine power, he did not stop at all and arrived before Patriarch Xinyu. With a backhand slap, tidal might burst forth and his strength surged as he crushed down. Boom, boom, boom. Patriarch Xinyu's body shuddered and swayed. The power released by the dragon phoenix true body was way too strong. The pyramid beneath his feet shattered and cracks appeared. It was already collapsing. Heavenly God descent. A power that came from the ancient era descended and golden lights burst forth from Patriarch Xinyu's body as his aura surged. Behind him, the phantom of a gigantic heavenly god appeared. It was indomitable and shone brightly as it looked down on the masses. At that moment, Patriarch Xinyu seemed like a true god. Umph. The dragon phoenix true body had a fearless expression as his blood chi surged. He reached out and a series of crackling sounds came from his body. Instantly, his arm expanded and became thicker. One after another, his muscles bulged and knotted together like roots as a layer of scarlet scales grew on the surface of his skin. The human's palm had already vanished and was replaced by an incomparably menacing dragon phoenix claw. The moment the heavenly god phantom descended, it was crushed by the menacing dragon phoenix claw and the phantom dissipated. Immediately after, the dragon phoenix claw descended with the momentum and grabbed towards Patriarch Xinyu. Patriarch Xinyu was scared out of his wits. He channeled his blood chi and wanted to escape from this place. However, the dragon phoenix true body was even faster and followed him like a shadow. The dragon phoenix claw was like a gigantic cage that enveloped his head the entire time. He could not break free at all. The next moment, Patriarch Xinyu's eyes dimmed. Under countless gazes, Patriarch Xinyu's head was crushed by the dragon phoenix claw and blood splattered everywhere. Before his essence spirit could escape, it was crushed by the dragon phoenix claw. The living beings of the 10,000 races widened their mouths in shock. The Mahayana patriarch of the god race was killed by the dragon phoenix true body just like that and was almost helpless. Thump. By the time Patriarch Wu Tian and the other 3 arrived, Patriarch Xinyu's headless corpse had already fallen to the ground without any life. The entire process happened too quickly. He did not give Patriarch Wu Tian and the others a second chance to attack. The dragon phoenix true body turned around slowly and glared at Patriarch Wu Tian and the other 3 coldly. The hearts of Patriarch Wu Tian and the other 3 turned cold. Unable to withstand the gaze of the dragon phoenix true body, they took half a step back instinctively and their hearts nearly leaped out of their chest. The dragon phoenix true body's tone was sinister as he said slowly, "If you guys dare to move, don't blame me for killing the 4 of you as well." It was a blatant threat. His tone was filled with disdain as though he was going to crush 4 ants. Patriarch Wu Tian and the other 3 were stunned on the spot and did not dare to move. Although the primordial 6 races had joined forces, Patriarch Xinyu was already dead. There was no need for them to risk their lives for a dead man. Desolate Marshal. A mighty figure of the god race stood out and shouted, "You killed our sovereign goddess and even ancestor god. The god race will definitely tear you into pieces and make you pay with blood." "Is that so?" The dragon phoenix true body was expressionless as he waved his hand. "Dragon race, listen up. Kill these god race beings. Leave no one alive." Chapter 1605, Massacre. Chapter 1605 Massacre. What? The living beings of the 10,000 races were shocked and looked at the dragon phoenix true body with eyes widened in disbelief. Even the primordial 6 races and many god race beings present could not believe that the dragon phoenix true body would issue such an order, let alone them. The god race had sent more than 100 people for this 10,000 race meet. They suffered considerable losses after the battle with Desolate Marshal and the super sects earlier on, and there were less than 100 people left. The remaining god race beings were all mighty figures and half-martial ancestors. Each of them was a core power of the god race. With that order, the feud between the dragon and god race would be irreconcilable. This was not as simple as killing a sovereign or goddess. He was bent on massacring them completely. Although the primordial 6 races had conflicts and massacres in the primordial era, they had reservations and were wary of one another. There had never been such an extreme situation. Desolate Marshal, how dare you? A god race half-martial ancestor hollered with eyes widened in disbelief. Roar. A dragon roar sounded. A gigantic divine dragon soared into the air with green scales that shone with a cold glint. With 5 claws beneath its abdomen, it roared into the skies with a rampant might. That's a 5-clawed divine dragon. The dragons of this generation are way too strong. There's a dragon phoenix and a 5-clawed divine dragon. Long Tsang transformed into his true form and circled in midair. He roared and swooped down, charging towards the god race half-martial ancestor. You. The god race half-martial ancestor was alarmed. Even at this moment he could not believe that the dragon race would want to massacre the god race completely without reservations. The god race half-martial ancestor reacted slower and was devoured by Long Tsang. Golden blood splattered everywhere from the dragon's mouth and scattered in the void. A half-martial ancestor of the god race died on the spot. Roar. 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 A series of dragon roars sounded. The hundreds of divine dragons that followed the dragon phoenix true body transformed into their true forms and charged towards the god race without any mercy. The god race could not believe that the dragon phoenix true body had given such an order, but the dragons did not hesitate at all. Instantly the dragons charged into the god race and a huge battle broke out. Those god race beings had expended a lot of energy in the battle against the Green Lotus true body, Extreme Fire, Azura and the super sects and were injured. The sovereign and goddess that led them were all dead. However, not only were the dragons at their peak condition, they even overwhelmed the god race in terms of numbers. Under Long Tsang's lead, they crushed the god race camp with ease. Patriarchs Wu Tian, Jin Yen, Song Ming and Liang frowned and hesitated slightly when they saw that. Under normal circumstances, the primordial 6 races should be joining forces to retaliate at this moment. However, the Patriarch of the Bloodvine race was absorbed and refined by the Green Lotus true body and died a long time ago. Without a commander, the remaining Bloodvines did not dare to act rashly. Patriarch Wu Tian and the other 3 exchanged glances and looked at the Dragon Phoenix true body not far away without daring to do anything. Desolate Marshal. Patriarch Jin Yen said coldly, "You've had your fun. The dragon race might have been able to protect you if you merely killed a sovereign and goddess. But now that you're bent on exterminating the god race, you'll definitely provoke the ancestor god experts of the god race. At that time, even the dragon race won't be able to protect you." Patriarch Wu Tian said coldly as well, "The god race will definitely sense the death of so many god race beings. You're in big trouble." "Is that so?" The Dragon Phoenix true body sneered, "Let's see what sort of figures from the god race will descend here." The battle was still ongoing. In just half an hour the god race suffered immense losses. Oh. Monkey and the others could not hold it in any longer when they saw the dragons killing to their heart's content. They joined the battlefield with the spirit tiger and the others to help the dragons hunt down the god race. The cultivators of the super sects did not move, they were still wary. There were not many people who dared to behave recklessly like Monkey and the others. Suddenly, a massive energy fluctuation spread out above Enigma Palace. The void split open and released streams of blinding golden light that emanated an extremely terrifying aura. The situation on the side of the god race had finally alarmed the other ancestor gods. 2 bedazzling golden figures walked out from the crack. The person on the left was a gray-haired old man who was hale and hearty with bright eyes. On the right was a middle-aged man with golden hair, blue eyes and a handsome face that was almost perfect under the illumination of the golden light. 2 ancestor gods had descended. "Desolate Marshal, you're finished?" Patriarch Jin Yen looked at the 2 ancestor gods and sneered, The old man on the left is Patriarch Divine Frost and the one on the right is Patriarch Divine Duel. Both of them are at the mid-stage Mahayana realm. For the primordial races, a mid-stage Mahayana was equivalent to a human perfected Mahayana who had comprehended many greater divine powers. In fact, they could even suppress perfected human Mahayanas. Just reminded you. Wu Tian sneered as well, you're in big trouble. If you had stopped earlier on you might have been saved. But now it's too late for regrets. Before he could finish, the Dragon Phoenix true body swayed and had already charged towards the two ancestor gods in midair with a murderous intent. What is Desolate Marshal trying to do? Patriarch Wu Tian and the other three widened their eyes in shock. Is Desolate Marshal crazy? He's actually going to fight two mid-stage Mahayana ancestor gods. Even if he's the Dragon Phoenix taboo, isn't that way too arrogant? How many trump cards does he have left? Patriarch Wu Tian and the others sneered internally. Dragon race, you guys have a death wish. On the left, the old man from the god race, Patriarch Divine Frost, withdrew a gigantic golden spear from his storage ring. Pausing in midair, he hollered with a loud bang. Mind your own business first. Then, the Dragon Phoenix true body had already descended. He reached out and grabbed Patriarch Divine Frost's head. Watch out. Patriarch Divine Duel on the left reminded as the storage ring on his finger flashed. Instantly, a gigantic golden sword and shield appeared on his left hand. Die. Patriarch Divine Frost shook his gigantic spear and stabbed towards the Dragon Phoenix true body. Patriarch Divine Duel raised his gigantic golden sword and slashed down at the Dragon Phoenix true body as well. Immobilize. The Dragon Phoenix true body summoned the Dragon Soul Saber and slashed in the direction of the two ancestor gods. The saber force changed instantly in midair and released Sea Calming. The lesser divine power, the body immobilization technique, descended on the two ancestor gods. Without the need for the two ancestor gods to defend intentionally, the blood chi in their bodies seemed to have been triggered and burst forth, surging with a golden glow. The body immobilization technique divine power dissipated instantly. The body immobilization technique had no effect on the two ancestor gods at all. Clang. The Dragon Soul Saber struck the gigantic golden spear and gigantic golden sword and sparks flew as an ear-piercing sound of metal clashing echoed. The Dragon Phoenix true body shuddered and took half a step back. The Dragon Soul Saber was sent flying as well, turning into a streak of light and disappearing into the crowd behind him. Chapter 1606, Great Sealing Technique. Chapter 1606, Great Sealing Technique. You're the taboo Dragon Phoenix? Patriarch Divine Frost chuckled. Unfortunately, you've only just entered the Mahayana realm and are still too inexperienced. Patriarch Divine Duel's expression was grim as he said coldly, it doesn't matter if you're Desolate Marshal or the Dragon Phoenix. You have to die if you dare to challenge the might of the god race. Is that so? The Dragon Phoenix true body had a cold expression and said murderously, I'm going to suppress the god race today. Heavenly God Descent. The two patriarchs, Divine Frost and Divine Duel, hollered at the same time. With the help of the ancient divine power, the aura in their bodies surged and a gigantic phantom appeared behind them. Roar. The blood chi within the Dragon Phoenix true body surged as he roared into the skies, letting out a deafening roar that caused the ears of the two patriarchs to buzz. The Dragon Phoenix true body's body expanded rapidly and scarlet scales grew on its surface. He wanted to take on his Dragon Phoenix form and attack with all his might. Great Sealing Technique. Suddenly, Patriarch Divine Frost's voice sounded. An extremely strange power descended on the Dragon Phoenix true body. Before he could transform into his true form, he reverted to his human form rapidly. The expression of the Dragon Phoenix true body changed. He could clearly sense that his blood chi was being suppressed, as though it was sealed by an extremely strange and powerful power. Not only that, the power even surged into his consciousness, wanting to seal his essence spirit. However, it was dispersed by the power of the 11 demon kings in his consciousness and failed. The Great Sealing Technique was a type of greater divine power. Once released, it could seal a cultivator's blood chi and essence spirit, decreasing their combat strength significantly. Although the Dragon Phoenix true body was only at the early stage Mahayana realm, he was a primordial taboo after all. His blood chi was strong and the seal technique could not seal his blood chi completely. However, before the power of the greater divine power dissipated, it was difficult for the Dragon Phoenix true body to transform into his true form. This had a huge impact on the Dragon Phoenix true body. The power and speed of the Dragon Phoenix true body would decrease and his combat strength would be reduced by at least 30%. A cold smile appeared on Patriarch Divine Frost's slightly old face. Little cub, you're still far from your peak. A taboo that isn't at his peak is of no threat to us. Patriarch Divine Duel sneered as well. The blood chi of the two patriarchs burst forth and they arrived before the Dragon Phoenix true body instantly, attacking at the same time. Whoosh! The golden spear drew divine halos and tore the void into pieces. Its landing spot was difficult to locate and enveloped the Dragon Phoenix true body completely. Swoosh! The gigantic golden sword shone with a bedazzling divine light and descended from the skies with an unparalleled might. First, they used Heavenly God Descent to increase their burst power. Coupled with the Great Sealing technique used to seal the blood chi of the Dragon Phoenix true body, the latter could not transform into his true form and his combat strength was greatly diminished. The two of them joined forces and fought the Dragon Phoenix true body in melee combat. The series of attacks were fluid as water, suffocating and almost flawless. Swoosh! A streak of golden light flashed. It flew out from the impenetrable trap weaved by the dermic treasures of the two patriarchs by a hair's breadth. A wave of shock and astonishment could be heard from the crowd. Even though the living beings of the 10,000 races were fixated on the battlefield, not many people could clearly see what happened. By the time everyone realized, the Dragon Phoenix true body had already escaped from the attacks of the two patriarchs, Divine Frost and Divine Duel, and stood in midair. On the back of the Dragon Phoenix true body were two pairs of gigantic wings. One pair burned with scarlet flames and two firestorms could be created with every flap. The other pair was completely golden without any impurities and the wings were completely spread. They were even larger than the Dragon Phoenix wings and looked strong. Although the Dragon Phoenix true body could not conjure his true form, he could still release his Dragon Phoenix wings and extreme speed divine powers. With the help of his two trump cards, the Dragon Phoenix true body could break free from the encirclement of the two patriarchs, Divine Frost and Divine Duel. Interesting. Patriarch Divine Duel smirked in disapproval. Let's see how many times you can avoid our attacks. Kill? The two patriarchs wielded their weapons and charged forward once more. The Dragon Phoenix true body waved his hands and channeled his essence spirit, pointing at the firmaments. Boom! Boom! A loud bang sounded from the skies as an ancient and thick stone pillar descended from the skies. A five-clawed divine dragon spiraled down with an endless might. The ancestral dragon divine pillar. Roar! The five-clawed divine dragon on the divine pillar suddenly came to life. With a long roar, it broke free from the stone pillar and a stone dragon lunged towards the two patriarchs of the god race. Puny tricks. Patriarch Divine Duel gripped his gigantic golden sword with both hands and slashed towards the incoming stone dragon. Boom! The gigantic golden sword struck the stone dragon. Instantly, the stone dragon stiffened and did not move at all. Cracks appeared on its body and the light in its eyes dimmed. Shatter! Patriarch Divine Frost's gray hair surged as he raised his golden spear and smashed it heavily against the ancestral dragon divine pillar above his head like a rod. Although Patriarch Divine Frost was already past his peak age, there was no sign of slumping in his twilight years. His blood chi was strong and he possessed invincible might. Boom! 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 Almost at the same time, the ancestral dragon divine pillar and stone dragon began to collapse and countless rocks fell. This divine power could no longer be condensed and dissipated rapidly. Suddenly, a scarlet golden glow flashed and the Dragon Phoenix true body suddenly descended before Patriarch Divine Frost, hollering softly, "Barren!" Swoosh! Suddenly, a gray-colored ripple burst forth from the Dragon Phoenix true body's body and spread in all directions like a water ripple. Instantly, it enveloped Patriarch Divine Frost and Patriarch Divine Duel. Back when the Dragon Phoenix true body was at the conjoint body realm, the maximum rate of lifespan reduction at the center of Barren was 2,000 years per breath. But now that the Dragon Phoenix true body had entered the Mahayana realm, the might of Barren rose as well, reaching a reduction rate of 8,000 years per breath. How unimaginable was that? Against the shroud of Barren, one would lose 80,000 years of lifespan with 10 breaths. T was irreversible. Under normal circumstances, the lifespan of a human patriarch was only 100,000 years. However, most Mahayana patriarchs were more than 30,000 years old by the time they could cultivate to the Mahayana realm. In other words, almost no Mahayana patriarch could survive 10 breaths under the envelopment of Barren. TT was clear that Patriarch Divine Frost was beyond his peak. Barren could cause him immense damage. The Dragon Phoenix true body could engage Patriarch Divine Frost in a battle in Barren, there was a high chance that the latter would be exhausted to death. Indeed, when Barren descended, the expressions of the two god race patriarchs changed when they sensed the decrease in their lifespans. But soon the two ancestor gods calmed down. Even Patriarch Divine Frost's eyes flashed with mockery. Is this Barren? It truly lives up to its reputation. He murmured softly, even now that we're at the mid-stage Mahayana realm, we can't defend against it. After a brief pause he continued, unfortunately you underestimate me. The lifespan of the god race is twice that of the human race. Although I look old, I still have 50,000 years left. 50,000 years of lifespan is enough to withstand 5 or 6 breaths of time. However, 3 breaths is all I need to kill you. Chapter 1607 Barren Dispelled. Chapter 1607 Barren Dispelled. Patriarch Divine Duel was slightly further away. Although he had fallen into Barren, he did not panic. He was at his peak and had more than 100,000 years to live. Although Barren reduced his lifespan rapidly, it was still within his tolerance. Whoosh! He swung the gigantic golden sword and slashed forward, breaking through the gray-colored ripples in front of him and approaching the Dragon Phoenix true body rapidly. On the other side, Patriarch Divine Frost gripped his golden spear and thrust it towards the head of the Dragon Phoenix true body, arriving instantly. Boom! An extremely powerful energy fluctuation burst forth from the Dragon Phoenix true body and a pair of jade-white elephant tusks gradually grew on both sides of his body. As the pair of elephant tusks grew, the power of the Dragon Phoenix true body rose as well. The two patriarchs frowned slightly. Immediately after, another pair of elephant tusks grew beside the Dragon Phoenix true body. 4 thick and sharp elephant tusks grew and were filled with an extremely terrifying divine power. The aura of the Dragon Phoenix true body rose continuously. It was the innate divine power of the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness, the 6-tusked divine strength. After entering the Mahayana realm, the Dragon Phoenix true body could already conjure 4 elephant tusks and his power could increase by 4 times. Although the cultivation of the Dragon Phoenix true body was still at early stage Mahayana, the power released by the 4 elephant tusks was no weaker than any greater divine power. The Dragon Phoenix true body reached out and grabbed Patriarch Divine Frost's spear in his palm, gripping it tightly without budging at all. Patriarch Divine Frost's expression changed slightly. He had not expected that the Dragon Phoenix true body could fight him after releasing that divine power. On the other side, Patriarch Divine Duel broke through the gray ripples and leaped up with the gigantic golden sword in his hands, slashing down at the head of the Dragon Phoenix true body. God's Eye. At the same time, 2 golden beams of light burst forth from Patriarch Divine Duel's eyes, as though they could penetrate everything. A visual technique was released. The Dragon Phoenix true body was long prepared. The moment Patriarch Divine Duel released his visual technique, 2 scorching glows burst forth from his eyes. The eyes of the Dragon Phoenix true body seemed to have transformed into 2 blazing suns. The 2 visual techniques collided in midair and let out a loud bang, creating a gigantic ball of light that expanded continuously. Boom! The ball of light exploded in a blinding manner. A series of yells and tragic cries sounded from the crowd. Caught off guard, the lights blinded all the living beings of the 10,000 races. Some living beings with lower cultivation realms felt their eyes sting and cried continuously, falling into a momentary blindness. It was hard to imagine the impact the Dragon Phoenix true body and Patriarch Divine Duel at the center of the battlefield would endure. The Dragon Phoenix true body was restrained by Patriarch Divine Frost while Patriarch Divine Duel attacked and released his visual technique. Initially, Patriarch Divine Duel thought that this would be enough to kill the Dragon Phoenix true body on the spot. To think that the visual technique of the Dragon Phoenix true body was even more lethal than his. In this clash of visual techniques, he was the one disadvantaged and his eyes stung such that he could barely open them. Although the cultivation realm of the Dragon Phoenix true body was low, there was an illumination stone in his eyes and the visual technique had long transformed. Even though the eyes of Patriarch Divine Duel were closed, he relied on his spirit consciousness to sense and did not stop moving. He gripped his sword with both hands and continued slashing in the direction of the Dragon Phoenix true body. Suddenly, he frowned slightly. He could sense that the palm of the Dragon Phoenix true body had already landed on his gigantic golden sword before it slashed down. The strange thing was that the palm was limp and boneless. It coiled, trembled and yanked. Patriarch Divine Duel's expression changed. He could clearly sense an extremely powerful ripping power released by the Dragon Phoenix true body. If he continued holding the gigantic golden sword, his arm would be snapped. Because of that moment of hesitation, his palm was torn and fresh blood dripped. The gigantic golden sword flew out of his hands and was snatched away by the Dragon Phoenix true body barehanded. After snatching the gigantic golden sword, the Dragon Phoenix true body threw it back at Patriarch Divine Duel in midair without even looking. The series of events from the visual technique clash, sword snatch to the counterattack were perfect without any delays at all. Patriarch Divine Duel was swooping down when the gigantic golden sword transformed into a golden streak of light and stabbed towards him. After the baptism of the six-tusked divine strength, the Dragon Phoenix true body strength had increased by more than 4 times. Under such an burst, the gigantic golden sword was extremely fast and arrived instantly. Patriarch Divine Duel could not dodge at all. When Patriarch Divine Duel saw that he was about to be severely injured by his own dermic weapon, he suddenly extended his palm and channeled his spirit consciousness. The storage ring on his palm flashed. The gigantic golden sword that was approaching was absorbed by the storage ring on his finger. Su Zimo's counterattack was perfect. However, Patriarch Divine Duel's swift resolution of the situation shocked everyone as well. Patriarch Divine Duel did not stop and descended. Reaching out, his golden blood chi surged as he hollered and threw a punch towards the Dragon Phoenix true body. The Dragon Phoenix true body punched in reverse as well. Bang! When the fists collided, flesh and bones smashed as a jarring sound of defeat echoed. The Dragon Phoenix true body shuddered and with a dull grunt, endured it. As for Patriarch Divine Duel, he flipped in midair and descended as well. Although the Dragon Phoenix true body was slightly disadvantaged this time round, Patriarch Divine Duel was secretly alarmed. Right now, it was a combined attack from him and Patriarch Divine Frost. Furthermore, the Dragon Phoenix true body's blood chi was sealed by the divine power of the Great Seal technique and could not transform into his true form. Even so, neither of them could suppress him completely. One could imagine that they would definitely be disadvantaged in terms of strength after the Dragon Phoenix true body transformed into his true form. At that thought, the killing intent of Patriarch Divine Duel intensified. He had to kill the Dragon Phoenix true body as soon as possible and not give the latter any chance. Although the fight between both parties was intense, in reality, it was only the duration of a single breath. Great Dark Technique. Right then, when Patriarch Divine Frost saw that he could not break through the defense of the Dragon Phoenix true body, he released another divine power. That greater divine power was extremely famous in the god race and was one of the strongest killing powers among the god race divine powers. It was on par with the Great Light Technique. A darkness appeared in front of Patriarch Divine Frost's chest and spun continuously, as though it had formed a gigantic dark vortex that could absorb all power and devour all living beings. The Dragon Phoenix true body felt his scalp tingle when the Great Dark Technique descended. He felt a sense of danger. Suddenly, when the Dragon Phoenix true body caught sight of the other end, his pupils constricted. The gray-colored ripples and fog created by the power of Barren he released could not escape the devouring power of the Great Dark Technique either. The gray fog around Patriarch Divine Frost was devoured by the dark vortex he released. Barren was dispelled. Chapter 1608, Comprehending Divine Powers. Chapter 1608, Comprehending Divine Powers. The Dragon Phoenix true body was alarmed. The power of Barren could not defend against the Great Dark Technique either and was pulled continuously towards the gigantic pitch-black vortex. At the same time, the darkness enveloped the Dragon Phoenix true body. He could clearly sense his blood chi and essence spirit power being extracted from his body and surging towards the darkness. On the other side, Patriarch Divine Duel brought out his gigantic golden sword once more and charged. If this continued, the Dragon Phoenix true body would most likely be killed by two god race patriarchs in less than 3 breaths. A cold glint flashed through the Dragon Phoenix true body's eyes as he condensed his spirit consciousness. Suddenly, a scarlet dragon scale the size of a palm flew out from his glabella in the shape of a crescent. The entire void trembled when the dragon scale appeared. The world seemed to have fallen into silence. Even the living beings of the 10,000 races who were afar sensed an extremely terrifying aura from the dragon scale, let alone the two patriarchs, Divine Frost and Divine Duel, who were right in front of it. It was the reverse scale of a dragon. The two patriarchs, Divine Frost and Divine Duel, exchanged glances without hesitation. Both of them condensed their essence spirits right away and released their essence spirit secret skills. 2 golden beams burst forth and struck the dragon scale instantly. Immediately after, the two patriarchs, Divine Frost and Divine Duel, shuddered and shrieked. Blood vessels appeared in their widened eyes and they had pained expressions. Blood drained from the faces of the two patriarchs. Patriarch Divine Duel's figure paused as well and he frowned. His features were contorted as though he was undergoing immense torture. Thin tears appeared on the essence spirits of the two patriarchs in their consciousnesses. Even Patriarch Divine Frost's Great Dark Technique nearly dissipated. Great Healing Technique. The two god race patriarchs growled and released another greater divine power. The moment the greater divine power descended, milky white beams of light shone from the two god race patriarchs with immense vitality. Their auras gradually stabilized under the milky white light. The Dragon Phoenix true body frowned slightly, feeling troubled. That was the benefit of comprehending many divine powers. The comprehension of an additional divine power would not only bring about a baptism for the body, bloodline and essence spirit, causing a massive increase in strength, it can also avoid danger completely. If not for that great healing technique, there was a high chance that the essence spirits of the two god race beings would explode and they would die. And the consciousnesses of the two patriarchs, milky white powers enveloped their essence spirits, temporarily mending the tears on their essence spirits. However, it was extremely difficult to heal such wounds to the essence spirit. The great healing technique divine power could only save the two patriarchs and stabilize their injuries. In other words, although the two patriarchs of the god race survived, their essence spirits were severely injured and their cultivations could not advance in the future. Desolate Marshal. Endless hatred surged in Patriarch Divine Duel's eyes as he said coldly, "You destroyed my cultivation. I'm going to tear you to pieces." He was at his peak and had more than 100,000 years to live. If not for this accident, he would definitely advance to the late stage or perfected Mahayana realm in the future. There was a high chance that he could even become an emperor in the future. But now, the reverse scale of the Dragon Phoenix true body had severed his future hope. If he comprehended a supreme divine power that could heal, it might be able to heal his essence spirit injuries. However, the problem was that his essence spirit was severely injured. It was almost impossible for him to comprehend a greater divine power, let alone a supreme divine power. Kill him. Patriarch Divine Frost narrowed his eyes and said hatefully as well. To begin with, he had already passed his peak and had less than 50,000 years to live. However, after experiencing the reduction of Barren and being severely injured by the reverse scale, he only had slightly more than 30,000 years to live. In that few breaths, he seemed like he had aged considerably. Patriarch Divine Frost channeled his Great Dark Technique and it enveloped the Dragon Phoenix true body. The Dragon Phoenix true body stood on the spot motionlessly with a lost expression. He was in deep thought and seemed like he had given up on resisting. When they saw that, Patriarch Wu Tian and the others heaved a sigh of relief and finally relaxed. Fu, Desolate Marshal has already missed his final chance to escape. That's right. If Desolate Marshal retreated the moment he severely injured the two patriarchs after releasing his reverse scale, there would definitely be a chance for him to escape. It's already too late now. Even so, Desolate Marshal is indeed terrifying. Even two mid-stage Mahayana god race patriarchs nearly died despite possessing so many greater divine powers. On the battlefield, there was naturally no way the Dragon Phoenix true body would give up. He had merely entered a mysterious state. Up till this point of his comprehension of Barren, he had always been successful. This dermic art ignored one's cultivation realm and could reduce one's lifespan limitlessly. It was irreversible and was something that countless experts were wary of. However, at the end of the day, Barren was merely a dermic art. The power of Barren was already at the peak of dermic arts. At the end of the day, dermic arts could not reach the level of divine powers. In a fight between the Mahayana realm, Mahayana patriarchs could spare tens of thousands years of lifespan at any moment. In fact, some patriarchs of the primordial races could even expend hundreds of thousands years of lifespan. The impact of Barren on them was clearly diminished. Now, the greater divine power released by Patriarch Divine Frost had even devoured Barren's power. A look of disappointment flashed through the Dragon Phoenix Truebody's eyes when he looked at Barren that was gradually devoured. More than that, he was indignant. Even as a dermic art, Barren was so powerful that patriarchs had to be wary of it. If Barren could advance a step further and become a divine power, what sort of power would it release? In such a dangerous situation, it triggered all the potential of the Dragon Phoenix Truebody. All the comprehensions he had gained from cultivating Barren over the years surged into his mind. At the end of the day, Barren was a form of release and control of time power. TS foundation was to speed up the flow of time on a cultivator. TT would cause a cultivator's lifespan to deplete rapidly in a short period of time. The Dragon Phoenix Truebody frowned. One after another, comprehensions revolved through his mind and he was about to break through that barrier to enter another realm of power. However, he could not break through that barrier no matter what. It was not so easy to comprehend divine powers. Many cultivators might not be able to master a single divine power even if they comprehended, accumulated and consolidated it for hundreds or even thousands of years. There's something missing. In a flash, the brain of the Dragon Phoenix Truebody spun rapidly as he recalled everything he had learned in his life. Everything flashed before his eyes like scenes. Suddenly, a thought flashed through the Dragon Phoenix Truebody's mind. Instantly, he seemed to have returned to the Tao inheritance ground and sat cross-D beside the stone statue of half-martial ancestor Instant. There, he entered the void reversion realm. There, he received more than 30 inheritance stone statues and deduced the martial Tao. Time sped around the stone statue. A single day outside was equivalent to a year of cultivation there. Actually, that was also a power of time passing. Be it Tao lords, patriarchs or emperors of history, none of them could defeat time and could not escape aging. Time was the fairest for all living beings. Chapter 1609, Time is like a saber. Chapter 1609, Time is like a saber. Something's not right. Patriarch Jin Yan looked at the Dragon Phoenix Truebody on the battlefield and suddenly said, "This state." Patriarch Wu Tian frowned slightly in deep thought. After pondering for a moment, he exclaimed, "Enlightenment. Desolate Marshal is in the midst of an enlightenment." The voice caused an uproar. Abadi expected the Dragon Phoenix Truebody to enter a state of enlightenment in such an intense battle. A state of enlightenment was extremely rare and could only be chanced upon. Under such circumstances, a cultivator's senses would become extremely sharp and they would be able to comprehend many deeper levels. However, that state would vanish the moment it was destroyed. Now, the life of the Dragon Phoenix Truebody was hanging by a thread. No matter how rare a state of enlightenment was, he should give up and turn to flee right away. Patriarch Liang sneered, "He truly doesn't know what's good for him. Is he still hoping to comprehend some divine power to reverse the situation?" Then, under many gazes, the confusion in the Dragon Phoenix Truebody's eyes dissipated and clarity returned. The Dragon Phoenix Truebody extended both hands and a gray fog surged between his palms without dissipating. As the hands of the Dragon Phoenix Truebody opened up, the gray fog gradually elongated and formed a gray saber. For some reason, the patriarchs present felt shudders and their expressions changed slightly when they saw the gray saber. Nobody knew what that gray saber was. However, all the Mahayana patriarchs wanted to distance themselves from the gray saber. An extremely terrifying divine power burst forth from the Dragon Phoenix Truebody like a storm and washed through his organs and 8 meridians, baptizing his body, blood, chi and essence spirit. Crack, crack, crack. The power of the Great Seal technique within the Dragon Phoenix Truebody dissipated instantly against the baptism of the divine power storm. It was as though shackles had shattered and the Dragon Phoenix Truebody had broken free from the seal completely. That's a greater divine power. Patriarch Wu Tian's pupils constricted and his voice trembled. The power of that greater divine power made Patriarch Wuxian and the others shudder. What divine power is that? I don't know. I've never seen a greater divine power with a gray saber before. The Mahayana Patriarchs present conversed rapidly. I don't care what greater divine power that is. Patriarch Divine Frost channeled his essence spirit to its limits and hollered menacingly, under the shroud of darkness, everything shall be destroyed. The gigantic dark vortex enveloped the Dragon Phoenix true body. Time is like a saber. The Dragon Phoenix true body had an indifferent expression as he chanted softly. The gray saber in his hands flew out and slashed towards the dark vortex before him. The gray saber descended and ignored the power of the dark vortex, penetrating it intact. Be it darkness or light, none of them could withstand the passage of time. Patriarch Divine Frost's expression changed and he wanted to retreat, but it was too late. The gray saber struck him. This is bad, this is where I die. Patriarch Divine Frost lamented internally. However, before long, he realized that he was not injured at all. He felt nothing when the gray saber struck him. His body did not sway and he was not injured at all. I'm fine. Suddenly, Patriarch Divine Frost burst into laughter with an emotional expression. Ha! I'm fine. Cough, cough, cough. Perhaps because he was laughing too hurriedly, Patriarch Divine Frost even coughed twice. He looked at the Dragon Phoenix true body with a mocking expression and jeered, I thought that it was some incredible, greater divine power. To think that it would be a joke. Ah! The Dragon Phoenix true body did not smile and merely looked at Patriarch Divine Frost quietly. None of the living beings of the 10,000 races smiled either. Unknowingly, the crowd around them had turned extremely quiet. Patriarch Divine Frost's laughter seemed extremely strange in this quiet environment. After laughing for a while, Patriarch Divine Frost realized that something was amiss and looked around instinctively. Chapter 1610 Total Annihilation. Chapter 1610 Total Annihilation. It was dead silent throughout Enigma Palace. A mid-stage Mahayana patriarch of the primordial races was killed by the Dragon Phoenix true body just like that. The 2 slashes depleted his lifespan of tens of thousands of years instantly. That greater divine power unleashed the cruelty of time to its limits. Swoosh! Patriarch Divine Duel's figure flashed and his blood chi burst forth. In the blink of an eye, he arrived before the Dragon Phoenix true body and raised his gigantic golden sword, slashing down. He knew very well that he could not let the Dragon Phoenix true body continue releasing that greater divine power. Although he still had more than 100,000 years of lifespan, he would not survive if he allowed the Dragon Phoenix true body to release the time is like a saber divine power. He wouldn't survive either after a few slashes. Notwithstanding a few slashes, even a single slash was an unbearable injury for him. A single slash was equivalent to 30,000 years. Time was truly like a saber in that sense and every single slash aged one considerably. Patriarch Divine Duel had rich combat experience and was sharp. He could tell that although this greater divine power was terrifying, it was not without flaws. Each time that greater divine power was condensed, it could only condense a single time saber. There was a brief pause in between. In other words, as long as he could exert enough pressure on the Dragon Phoenix true body in melee combat such that the latter would not be able to release that greater divine power, he would be invincible. Therefore, Patriarch Divine Duel did not escape. Instead, he charged forward and his blood chi surged. A golden light burst forth from his body with a torrential aura as he chose to fight the Dragon Phoenix true body in melee combat. However, Patriarch Divine Duel missed something. After comprehending that greater divine power and experiencing the baptism of the divine power storm, the power of the Great Seal technique in the Dragon Phoenix true body had already vanished. The power of the Dragon Phoenix true body's body, blood chi and essence spirit surged. Furthermore, he could transform into his Dragon Phoenix true form at any moment and fight Patriarch Divine Duel. Slash! The gigantic golden sword slashed down. The Dragon Phoenix true body did not dodge or avoid. His gaze intensified as he suddenly extended his arm. Even in midair, his arm let out a series of crackling sounds and expanded instantly, spanning dozens of feet as it turned thick and menacing. The muscles on his arm bulged like spirit snakes, and scarlet dragon scales that resembled metal plates grew on them instantly. His palm had already transformed as well, turning into a gigantic, sharp dragon phoenix claw. Clang! The dragon phoenix claw grabbed the gigantic golden sword in his palm and sparks flew. The sharpness of the gigantic golden sword could not even break through the scales of the dragon phoenix. Patriarch Divine Duel retreated instinctively, wanting to retrieve his gigantic golden sword. His expression changed slightly. The gigantic golden sword was gripped tightly by the dragon phoenix claw and did not budge at all. Even when he released his full strength, he could not withdraw the gigantic golden sword. Both of them were extremely close and began to wrestle without letting go. The dragon phoenix true body's eyes were cold as he glared at Patriarch Divine Duel. The flames in the dragon phoenix claw intensified. Buzz! As though it was in immense pain, the gigantic golden sword began to tremble and let out a buzzing sound. The golden light on the sword began to dim. Not only that, the sword shone with a red light instead. The living beings of the 10,000 races focused their gazes and widened their mouths in shock. Under the scorching heat of the dragon phoenix flames, the gigantic golden sword gradually turned red and was almost transparent. It emitted a scorching heat and extended towards the hilt. The hilt of the sword began to turn red as well. Splash! Splash! White smoke steamed from Patriarch Divine Duel's palm that was burned. Patriarch Divine Duel had a menacing expression and his eyes widened. He was still enduring the pain and refused to let go. However, the power of the dragon phoenix true body rose continuously and the temperature of the dragon phoenix flames increased as well. The hilt of the sword burned his hands. In the end, Patriarch Divine Duel finally could not withstand it and released his palm. Umph! The dragon phoenix true body sneered and snatched the gigantic golden sword. He gripped the fiery red hilt of the sword and slashed down viciously at Patriarch Divine Duel. Patriarch Divine Duel raised the gigantic golden shield in his left hand hurriedly to defend. Boom! A deafening sound could be heard when the gigantic golden sword struck the gigantic shield. The gigantic golden sword was red from the dragon phoenix flames to begin with and became extremely fragile. Now that it collided with the gigantic shield, it broke into pieces and shards splintered everywhere. Patriarch Divine Duel shuddered as though he was struck by lightning. The power of the dragon phoenix true body was clearly much stronger than before and he could not defend against it. Suddenly, Patriarch Divine Duel's expression changed starkly. He finally realized that the dragon phoenix true body could transform into his true form now that the seal technique had vanished. At that time, the latter's combat strength would increase once more. Then, a large shadow appeared above Patriarch Divine Duel's head. The temperature around him rose rapidly. TT was as though he had fallen into a gigantic volcano with raging flames surging around him. He was about to melt. He looked up instinctively. And the firmaments, a powerful living being blazing with raging flames, looked down at him. It had a dragon's head, phoenix's tail and 2 pairs of wings on its back. Beneath its wings, 4 jade-white elephant tusks could be faintly seen. Those eyes were cold and intimidating. The way they looked at him was as though they were looking at an ant without any emotions at all. The taboo dragon phoenix. Although Patriarch Divine Duel had cultivated to the mid-stage Mahayana realm, he felt a sense of insignificance after the descent of the dragon phoenix true body. This was an absolute suppression of bloodline. Even though the roots of the god race were not on this mainland, they still felt a deep fear against the taboos. Swoosh! The dragon phoenix true body swooped down with its massive body, descending with the terrifying might of a taboo. With nowhere to run, Patriarch Divine Duel could only defend with the gigantic golden shield once more. Boom! There was a loud bang. Patriarch Divine Duel's figure smashed onto the ground like a meteor, creating a huge pit. The gigantic golden shield was sent flying by the dragon phoenix true body as well and collapsed to the ground. Patriarch Divine Duel's tendons and bones felt like they were about to fall apart as he struggled to climb out of the pit. Then a scarlet shadow loomed over. Boom! Boom! The dragon phoenix descended and pushed against Patriarch Divine Duel's body with his claws. Sharp claws pierced his body instantly and fresh blood spewed. Patriarch Divine Duel shrieked tragically and his body trembled in pain, almost convulsing. Every single claw was like a burning iron hook that stabbed into his body. Burning flames destroyed his life force continuously. Ah. He struggled continuously and let out tragic cries. How noisy! The voice of the dragon phoenix sounded with endless might. The dragon phoenix lowered his head slightly and suddenly opened his mouth, spewing out a stream of scarlet lava that splashed down on Patriarch Divine Duel's head. Shing! The scorching lava drowned the pit and Patriarch Divine Duel's figure instantly, causing green smoke to rise. Patriarch Divine Duel's cry came to an abrupt stop. Before long, his aura vanished completely into the lava without any corpse left. At this point of the battle, 2 mid-stage Mahayana patriarchs of the god race descended and were killed by the dragon phoenix true body. The remaining god race beings were no longer a threat and fled in all directions. Patriarch Wuxian and the others were pale with fright when they saw that. They knew very well that the god race was finished. It was a total annihilation. Chapter 16:11 5 Elements Divine Thunder. Chapter 16:11 5 Elements Divine Thunder. Patriarch Wu Tian and the other 3 exchanged glances with lingering fear. When the dragon phoenix true body descended, they were still thinking of how to join forces and suppress him. Now that they thought about it, that thought was way too laughable and crazy. If they had persisted in attacking the dragon phoenix true body earlier on, they would have been 4 corpses by now. Can you guys sense that Desolate Marshal has an extremely strong enmity towards the god race? Patriarch Liang asked with a voice transmission. Patriarch Wu Tian nodded. I can sense it. Earlier on, Desolate Marshal also said something similar. He said that he could negotiate with us but not the god race. That's a little strange. Patriarch Songming frowned slightly. Desolate Marshal had grudges with our primordial 6 races before. Why would he target the god race so specifically? I'm not sure. We can no longer call the shots for this 10,000 race meet, Patriarch Jin Yin said. I've already informed the clan leader and asked him to head over to settle this matter. Patriarch Wu Tian and the others had already informed their respective clan leaders. There were not many god race beings left in Enigma Palace, but they were still fighting desperately. The death of the 2 patriarchs, Divine Frost and Divine Duel, was a devastating blow to the god race. The dragon phoenix true body did not help. He did not even care if dragons were injured or even dead. This sort of fresh blood and life and death was something that the dragon race had to experience. This was the best training for the dragon race. All these years, the dragon race had not appeared in the Dragon Bone Valley and it was difficult for them to kill one another in a spar within the race. Without the baptism of life and death and blood, these dragons would not truly grow. The god race at Enigma Palace was their whetstone. The dragon phoenix true body did not tell the truth of the primordial war. Even if he said it now, no one would believe him. That was because his understanding of the primordial war was only limited to some simple messages transmitted by the Green Lotus true body. The dragon phoenix true body did not know the details at all and he had no proof. If he said it now, it would be unconvincing and he would only attract the suspicions and ridicule of the other primordial races. After all, the truth was way too terrifying and horrifying that it was completely unimaginable. Furthermore, even if Patriarch Wu Tian and the others believed it, it was useless. Up till this point of the 10,000 race meet, Patriarch Wu Tian and the others no longer had any say and could not make any decisions for the primordial races. When the true experts of the primordial 6 races descended and the Green Lotus true body revealed the truth, there was a chance of changing the situation and making the final decision. Furthermore, he might alert the enemy if he said it now. Right then, on the battlefield, the green and crystalline creation Green Lotus emanated rays of light that swayed gently. The aura of the Green Lotus true body gradually stabilized on the Lotus platform. The second tribulation of the 3 calamities of Taoism, the malevolent earth fire, had already passed. The Green Lotus true body was healing his injuries rapidly and recovering his vitality. It was clear that the malevolent earth fire tribulation did not affect the Green Lotus true body much. With just a slight rest, the state of the Green Lotus true body had already returned to his peak and the blood chi in his body was strong with immense vitality. This malevolent spirit fruit is truly a universal treasure. Apart from the fact that Desolate Marshal managed to survive the malevolent earth fire tribulation safely after devouring the malevolent spirit fruit, he did not suffer any harm. Definitely. Most of the malevolent earth fire's power was neutralized by the power of the malevolent spirit fruit. The remaining power was of no threat to desolate Marshall. More importantly, the better the condition one is in after the malevolent earth-fire tribulation, the better their chances of surviving the 5 thunder tribulation later on. The malevolent spirit fruit is way too important for us half-martial ancestors. If anyone has a malevolent spirit fruit, I'll even risk my life for them. A half-martial ancestor murmured. There were many half-martial ancestors with that thought. That was because if they could not tide through the divine power tribulation, their lifespans would only be 20,000 years. If they failed the tribulation transcendence, they might even die. However, with the help of the malevolent spirit fruit, they could successfully advance to the Mahayana realm and their lifespans would increase to 100,000 years. The attraction of that was way too great for half-martial ancestors. Boom, boom, boom. Right then, thunder sounded from the skies in a deep and powerful manner, as though it was reverberating in the hearts of all living beings. The skies were clear everywhere else. However, dark clouds filled the skies of Enigma Palace and gathered rapidly. The rumbling clouds seemed like they were splashed with ink. The final tribulation of the 3 calamities of Taoism is here. Someone exclaimed softly. The final tribulation was the thunder tribulation. Those thunderbolts were not ordinary thunderbolts, but the 5 elements, Gung metal, Yi wood, Gui water, Bing fire and Wu earth divine thunders. The so-called struck by 5 thunders referred to the 5 elements divine thunder. Throughout history, there had been countless half-martial ancestor experts who died to the 5 elements divine thunder. If they failed the final tribulation, their souls would be dispersed. The dark clouds gathered and turned darker with lightning flashing within it emitted a shuddering might. The creation green lotus stood upright and soared into the skies. Against the dark clouds and the envelopment of thunder, there was no fear and it shone brightly. Snap! A gigantic thunderbolt descended with a blinding black brilliance, as though it wanted to penetrate everything. Gui water divine thunder. The strength of the 5 elements divine thunder was different and the Gui water divine thunder was relatively mild. The divine thunderbolt struck down heavily on Su Zimo's head and his body shuddered as streaks of lightning flashed. There was even a hint of mist mixed in the lightning. The flesh of the green lotus true body exploded instantly, forming a blood mist as cracks appeared on the surface of his skin. Even the mildest Gui water divine thunder could release such a terrifying power. The living beings of the 10,000 races were secretly alarmed. Su Zimo gritted his teeth and endured it emotionlessly. Before long, the lightning on the green lotus true body dissipated. Snap! Another thunder boomed. The 5 elements divine thunder would not give Su Zimo any time to recuperate as the second thunderbolt struck down. The 5 thunderbolts struck in succession without any breathing room. The 5 elements coexisted, water and wood. The second thunderbolt was the Yi wood divine thunder. When the divine thunderbolt descended, Su Zimo actually stood up from the creation lotus platform. His black hair danced as he roared into the skies, as though he was declaring war on the 5 elements divine thunder. When the Yi wood divine thunder struck Su Zimo, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. However, under the gazes of many living beings, not only did Su Zimo's aura not deteriorate at all, it was even rising rapidly. The wounds on Su Zimo's body healed at a visible speed. Not only did the divine thunderbolt fail to cause any damage to the green lotus true body, the power it contained was absorbed by the green lotus true body instead. The creation green lotus beneath Su Zimo shone brightly. Gasps could be heard from the crowd. Throughout history, countless half-martial ancestors underwent tribulation transcendence, but there had never been such a situation. Someone exclaimed, "I got it. The creation green lotus is a god of the plants. Even the Yi wood divine thunder can't suppress it." Instead, it became nourishment for it. As expected of the creation green lotus, it can even devour the Yi wood divine thunder. Chapter 1612, Mahayana Realm. Chapter 1612, Mahayana Realm. Not only did the descent of the Yi wood divine thunder fail to severely injure Su Zimo, it even nourished him and the creation green lotus beneath him. The injuries that the Gui water divine thunder caused to the green lotus true body were completely healed under the nourishment of the Yi wood divine thunder. Su Zimo's aura rose continuously. Before long, the Yi wood divine thunder was completely absorbed by the green lotus true body. Be it in terms of condition or strength, he had already reached his peak. A third divine thunderbolt descended. Fire was born from the wood. The third was the Bing Fire Divine Thunder. If the Gue Water Divine Thunder was the weakest in the 5 elements Divine Thunder, the Bing Fire Divine Thunder would be one of the strongest in the 5 elements Divine Thunder. Furthermore, the Bing Fire Divine Thunder dealt even greater damage to the Flora race. Snap! A scarlet thunderbolt descended from the dark clouds and struck Su Zimo. Swoosh! Instantly, Su Zimo's body was enveloped by streaks of scarlet lightning and raging flames even ignited. His figure was faintly visible within the Bing Fire Divine Thunder. The living beings of the 10,000 races could clearly see that Su Zimo's flesh was already split by the Bing Fire Divine Thunder. Before fresh blood flowed out, it evaporated and turned into ashes. Su Zimo trembled slightly, frowning with a pained expression. Even the aura of the creation Green Lotus was suppressed by the Bing Fire Divine Thunder. However, right from the beginning he did not make a single sound. His aura weakened continuously. In the end, it was even drowned in the Bing Fire Divine Thunder and almost disappeared. The experts of the primordial 6 races had conflicted expressions when they saw that. They knew very well that Su Zimo was at his weakest right now. Any conjoint body mighty figure or even Dharma characteristic Tao Lord could severely injure and kill him. However, all the experts of the primordial 6 races snuck glances at the other powerful figure in midair. The figure had scarlet hair that burned like flames and a searing gaze, emitting a violent and scorching might. With the Dragon Phoenix true body around, nobody dared to act. The Dragon Phoenix true body's expression was unchanged when he saw that, and he had no intention of interfering. One had to rely on their own strength for a tribulation transcendence as such. If anyone else interfered, it would only bring about an even more terrifying catastrophe. Amidst the flashes of lightning and fire, Su Zimo did not move at all. The blood chi in his body surged and released streams of tremendous life force to heal his injuries and defend against the Bing Fire Divine Thunder. The Bing Fire Divine Thunder destroyed, incinerated and rampaged repeatedly as the Green Lotus true body repaired itself continuously, nourishing and healing. And the continuous tension and resistance, the Green Lotus true body became even purer and flawless. Furthermore, the regeneration capabilities of the Green Lotus true body became stronger and more terrifying. Finally, the Bing Fire Divine Thunder dissipated. On the Creation Lotus platform, Su Zimo was already unrecognizable and had been burned into a black human-shaped charcoal by the Bing Fire Divine Thunder. Suddenly, 2 divine lights burst forth from the human-shaped charcoal. Those were Su Zimo's eyes. Su Zimo opened his eyes. Accompanied by that slight movement, the charcoal on his body gradually fell off. His dead skin faded and his rotting flesh turned into ashes, revealing a layer of fair and tender skin. He was just like a newborn baby, and there was even a faint fragrance emanating from him. Su Zimo's body was filled with a jade-green glow that was crystal clear and flawless. His body was like a true creation Green Lotus. Snap! A 4th divine thunderbolt descended with a golden glow. Earth was born from the fire. It as the Wu Earth Divine Thunder. The golden thunder descended and Su Zimo shuddered, feeling an unbearable pressure that was almost suffocating. Even the creation Green Lotus beneath him could not withstand it and bent over slightly. The Wu Earth Divine Thunder possessed an extremely terrifying might. It was as though Su Zimo was not enduring a divine thunderbolt, but the entire ground. It was thick, vast and extended endlessly. Su Zimo's body gradually bent over. Under the pressure of the situation, he had no choice but to bow down. He was bending over. Tulbi creation Green Lotus beneath him was bending as well. The power of the Wu Earth Divine Thunder did not stop and seemed boundless. Not only did the Divine Thunderbolt want to crush his body, it wanted to crush him and make him kneel down and submit to heaven and earth. If he was crushed, it would mean that the creation Green Lotus beneath him would be crushed as well. Su Zimo had long fused as one with the creation Green Lotus. They were bound together for good or ill. The Wu Earth Divine Thunder descended longer than all 3 Divine Thunderbolts combined. Furthermore, Su Zimo could clearly sense that the power within his body was still increasing. Suddenly, a thought flashed through Su Zimo's mind. The ground was thick, vast and unstoppable. The splitting of the earth could devour everything. The collapse of the earth could bury all living beings. However, the earth could also contain all living beings and nurture life. Although the power of the earth was enough to destroy everything, even the weakest grass could break out of the ground and grow. That thought shone brightly, and suddenly, Su Zimo felt the pressure on his body lessen. Under the gazes of the living beings of the 10,000 races, Su Zimo's body gradually straightened for some reason. The creation green lotus beneath him began to grow as well. They were like a green lotus that had broken out of the ground, emitting a vibrant life force with a peak aura. Snap! Thunder rumbled again. A fifth divine thunderbolt descended. Metal was born from the earth. Metal represented killing. The gung metal divine thunder was the strongest among the 5 elements and could penetrate everything. Its killing power was at its limits. A blazing thunderbolt descended with a bedazzling white light and struck Su Zimo's head instantly. Suddenly, Su Zimo's body froze and he did not move at all. Bang! Right after, in front of everyone, Su Zimo's body suddenly exploded into a blood mist that stained half the skies. Desolate Marshal failed his tribulation transcendence. The gung metal divine thunder is still so strong that it destroyed the green lotus true body. The crowd was in an uproar as a series of exclamations sounded. The experts of the primordial 6 races heaved a sigh of relief. Although they did not say anything, they could not conceal the joy in their eyes. Su Zimo's green lotus true body was also a huge threat to them. Nobody knew what combat strength the green lotus true body would possess after entering the Mahayana realm. Something's not right. Patriarch Wu Tian's spirit consciousness was extremely powerful and his senses were sharp. He frowned. Desolate Marshal isn't dead. Right then, the ball of blood mist on the creation green lotus gradually gathered. In the blink of an eye, Su Zimo's green lotus true body was formed once more. Howling into the skies, Su Zimo's body shone with a resplendent glow. Along with his howl, the creation green lotus seemed to have sensed something and soared into the skies. Its gigantic lotus leaves danced and its lotus platform swayed. The dark clouds hovering above Su Zimo's head were crushed by the creation green lotus and dissipated gradually. The divine power tribulation was passed safely. Su Zimo's aura seemed to have broken through some sort of a barrier and was rising rapidly. He broke free of the shackles of heaven and earth once more and his lifespan extended. The green lotus true body had entered the Mahayana realm. Su Zimo assumed a lotus position and did not leave immediately. He had just entered the Mahayana realm and had to continue cultivating and comprehending to stabilize this realm. Chapter 1613 Arrival of the Prime Body. Chapter 1613 Arrival of the Prime Body. Middle Continent, Astral Mountain Range. This mountain range was famous in the cultivation world because many years ago, a supreme expert left behind his inheritance and established a sect here. Later on, that sect was established as one of the immortal sects and was Astral Sect. 20,000 years ago, Astral Sect split into 2 super sects, Heavenly Dipper Sect and Malevolent Earth Sect. Right now, the Astral Mountain Range was where Heavenly Dipper Sect was located. This day, a person arrived in the Astral Mountain Range. The person wore purple robes and his black hair draped over his shoulders. He had refined features and although he was young, he exuded an unstoppable aura. If cultivators of Enigma Palace saw his appearance, they would definitely be shocked. That was because this person's appearance was identical to Desolate Marshal and Su Zimo. Everyone knew that Desolate Marshal had 2 true bodies. At that moment, both of Desolate Marshal's true bodies were in Enigma Palace. In that case, who was this person? The purple-robed man looked at the Astral Mountain Range with a deep gaze. After pondering for a moment, he extended his finger and tapped his glabella gently. Instantly, a layer of mist covered the purple-robed man's face and disguised his appearance. This was Desolate Marshal's 3rd true body, the Martial Dao Prime Body. After cultivating for 100 years, the Martial Dao Prime Body had already entered the half-martial ancestor realm. He did not choose to head to Enigma Palace. The Dragon Phoenix true body had already told him about the situation over there. According to his calculations, there was a high chance that the top experts of the primordial races would arrive one after another. Even if he rushed over, it would be useless. At the end of the 10,000 race meet, there was a high chance that it would be a fight between emperors. The Martial Dao Prime Body chose to come to the Middle Continent Heavenly Dipper Sect. He advanced and arrived at the entrance of Heavenly Dipper Sect before long. On both sides of the mountain gate of Heavenly Dipper sect, the disciples guarding it were not weak, there were two nascent souls. Who are you? The two nascent souls could not help but frown when they saw the Martial Tao Prime body from afar and asked loudly. The Martial Tao Prime body ignored them and continued forward without looking sideways. Halt. If you get closer, don't blame us for killing you here. The eyes of the two nascent souls shone coldly. They summoned their flying sword dermic weapons that hovered before their chests as they glared at the Martial Tao Prime body with hostile expressions. Given their cultivation, they could not tell the cultivation realm of the Martial Tao Prime body at all. However, when the Martial Tao Prime body approached, the two nascent souls felt suffocated as though their hearts were grabbed by a gigantic hand of the five elements. The two nascent souls did not move at all, and a layer of sweat appeared on their foreheads instantly. Danger. Extreme danger. One of the nascent souls mustered his courage and said in a fierce manner, "This is Heavenly Dipper sect and you're not allowed to be impudent. I don't believe that you'll dare to hurt us in front of our sect." The Martial Tao Prime body ignored them and continued forward, passing by the two nascent souls without stopping at all. The two nascent souls had ugly expressions. Although they wanted to attack countless times, they did not dare to and could only watch helplessly as the Martial Tao Prime body passed through the entrance. The entrance of Heavenly Dipper sect was made from a true meteor in the firmaments. It was grand and ancient with streaks of starlight shimmering on it in an extremely mysterious manner. Under normal circumstances, if one did not have a sect badge of Heavenly Dipper sect when they crossed the mountain gate, the starlight would definitely shine on them. If the countless starlight spewed down, any intruders would definitely be killed. But now, when the Martial Tao Prime body walked through the mountain gate, the entire mountain gate shattered before the starlight could even form. Go! The two nascent souls made a prompt decision and summoned their flying swords, piercing towards the back of the Martial Tao Prime body's head. At the same time, the two of them conjured hand seals and conjured a dermic art, prepared to release it. The Martial Tao Prime body did not turn back still and merely continued forward. The moment the flying swords left their hands, they froze in midair. Right in front of the two nascent souls, they shattered into countless shards that scattered onto the ground. The two nascent souls did not get to release their dermic art either. Both of them had lost expressions and stood motionlessly on the spot. The next moment, both of them exploded into blood mists without any corpse left. Before long, the Martial Tao Prime body arrived above Heavenly Dipper sect and looked down. There were 36 main peaks in Heavenly Dipper sect that corresponded to the 36 Heavenly Dipper stars. The Martial Tao Prime body spread his massive spirit consciousness and it enveloped down, scanning Heavenly Dipper sect from head to toe, in and out. Nothing, cultivators or secrets, could be hidden from the spirit consciousness detection of the Martial Tao Prime body. As expected of a super sect. The Martial Tao Prime body smiled gently and murmured, "Although so many mighty figures and half-martial ancestors went to the 10,000 race meet, there are still so many experts hidden here. Who's there? Audacious. How dare you barge into Heavenly Dipper sect and even release your spirit consciousness to probe our secrets brazenly?" Bang, bang, bang. Many powerful auras burst forth from the 36 main peaks as figures soared into the air with murderous auras and charged towards the Martial Tao Prime body. Most of those figures were Dharma characteristic Tao Lords, and there were even a few conjoint body mighty figures. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Before those figures arrived, dermic weapons tore through the air one after another. Many dermic arts descended as well, covering the skies. The Martial Tao Prime body remained silent and a mocking look flashed through his eyes. He stood motionlessly with his hands behind his back and merely released a tremendous spirit consciousness to suppress everything. Instantly, all the figures that charged forward froze in midair. All of those Heavenly Dipper sect cultivators widened their eyes in fear. At that moment, be it Dharma characteristic Tao Lords or conjoint body mighty figures, they felt as though the apocalypse had arrived and the firmament seemed to have collapsed, about to drown everyone. Poof, poof, poof. Figures exploded in midair one after another, turning into blood mists. Even conjoint body mighty figures were not spared. They merely managed to endure for a moment more before their bodies split into pieces. The moment their essence spirits were exposed, they were destroyed and drowned by the vast spirit consciousness of the Martial Tao Prime body. The half-martial ancestor realm Martial Tao Prime body merely had to release his spirit consciousness to suppress those Tao Lords and mighty figures. Sect Protection Formation activate. Right then, a deep and authoritative voice sounded from the depths of a mountain peak of Heavenly Dipper sect. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The 36 mountains swayed and released streams of bedazzling starlight, gathering into a single spot in midair. At the same time, stars appeared in daylight above the firmaments. The true 36 Heavenly Dipper stars appeared and starlight descended into the void of Heavenly Dipper sect. The formation connected heaven and earth. Ancient stars condensed around the martial Tao prime body, emanating a terrifying might. The formation seemed to be able to conjure true stars in the firmaments. In fact, even the void could not withstand the pressure and trembled continuously, letting out strange sounds as though it was crying. Chapter 16:14 Sweep. Chapter 16:14 Sweep. Every single star condensed the power of the Heavenly Dipper formation and borrowed the power of the 36 Heavenly Dipper stars in the firmaments continuously, causing the auras and power of the stars to increase. If the 36 stars were formed and released their impact at the same time, even Mahayana Patriarchs would have to avoid them. Shatter. Right then, the martial Tao prime body looked at the gigantic star that hovered around him with a calm expression. Suddenly he opened his mouth and hollered. Although the voice was neither loud nor soft, it gave off an extremely terrifying impact. Crack, crack, crack. The light on the 36 ancient stars floating beside him dimmed instantly and cracks appeared on the surface of the stars. Boom. The next moment, all 36 stars exploded into countless meteors that flew in all directions, turning into dermic powers that returned to the world. What is that sound domain secret skill? The Heavenly Dipper sect cultivators were shocked. The sect protection formation was shattered by a single roar of the purple-robed mysterious man. The 36 Heavenly Dipper stars above the firmaments vanished once more. Boom, boom, boom. The power released by the voice did not stop. The 36 main peaks swayed continuously as well and the mountains cracked. The astral mountain range shook as well and shocked countless birds and beasts. This was a true change of weather and the mountains quaked. That voice seemed to have suppressed the aura of the entire Heavenly Dipper sect. Many Heavenly Dipper sect disciples looked at the martial Tao prime body in the skies with shock and deep fear in their eyes. Even Dharma-characteristic Tao lords and conjoint body mighty figures shuddered, let alone low-level foundation establishment cultivators and golden cores. They had never seen such terrifying methods before. A single spirit consciousness suppressed all the cultivators present. A single roar was all it took to dispel the ancient sect protection formation of Heavenly Dipper sect. Could this purple-robed mysterious man be a Mahayana Patriarch? None of the cultivators of Heavenly Dipper sect could make out the appearance of the martial Tao prime body. In their eyes, the face of the martial Tao prime body was shrouded by a layer of fog the entire time and their spirit consciousnesses could not penetrate it. Right then, a loud bang sounded from the 6 main peaks as 6 figures rose slowly. Every single figure emitted an extremely powerful aura. 6 half-martial ancestors of Heavenly Dipper sect had broken out of seclusion. I'm Elder Zhan Long of Heavenly Dipper sect and I'm in charge of discipline in the sect. May I know your name and sect, fellow Taoist? An old man of Heavenly Dipper sect asked in a deep voice. Another half-martial ancestor of Heavenly Dipper sect sneered, I wonder where this rat came from. He's hiding and doesn't even dare to reveal his true appearance. You sure are bold to call me a rat. The gaze of the martial Tao prime body landed on that person as he walked slowly towards the ladder. The half-martial ancestor of Heavenly Dipper sect's heart skipped a beat as he focused his attention and said in a deep voice, if I'm not wrong, your cultivation realm is only at the half-martial ancestor realm as well. This is Heavenly Dipper sect, it's not a place where a half-martial ancestor like you is allowed to be insolent. The martial Tao prime body nodded and said indifferently, I'm a half-martial ancestor, but it's enough to kill you. The moment he said that, the martial Tao prime body had already arrived before the person. Kill? The glabella of the half-martial ancestor of Heavenly Dipper sect shone and a cold glint flashed instantly. It was a flying sword that stabbed towards the face of the martial Tao prime body. 2 half-martial ancestors beside that half-martial ancestor of Heavenly Dipper sect attacked as well, releasing dermic arts that descended. Furthermore, there was a wisp of divine power in those dermic arts. The 3 half-martial ancestors knew that they had encountered a powerful enemy as well. The moment they attacked, they released their trump cards in full strength without testing the waters. Fu. The martial Dao Prime Body laughed. That laugh contained extreme disdain. The martial Dao Prime Body did not stop. However, he suddenly extended his palm and grabbed forward. That simple action caused the dermic arts released by the three half-martial ancestors to explode in midair before they even descended. It was as though the martial Dao Prime Body had broken the dermic arts of the three half-martial ancestors through the void. At the same time, as though they were drawn in by something, the two flying swords and a heavy sword converged towards the martial Dao Prime Body's palm. The expressions of the five half-martial ancestors changed. At that moment, they had already lost control of their destiny dermic weapons. In the blink of an eye, the three destiny dermic weapons landed in the hands of the martial Dao Prime Body. Suddenly, the martial Dao Prime Body retracted his palm. Crack, crack, crack. A shuddering crack sounded from his palm. Right in front of everyone, the three half-martial ancestor dermic weapons were shattered by the palm of the martial Dao Prime Body and turned into many tiny shards. Those were half-martial ancestor dermic weapons that were imbued with a trace of divine power. But now they were shattered by the martial Dao Prime Body barehanded. It was not over yet. The martial Dao Prime Body held the shards in his palm and rubbed them gently with both hands. The shards were rolled into an iron ball the size of a fist by the palm of the martial Dao Prime Body. The martial Dao Prime Body rubbed his hands together and the iron ball scattered like sand. Brook, brook. Sounds of gulping could be heard from the crowd. He ground the metal into mud. Even Elder Zhanlong and the other half-martial ancestors were scared out of their wits, let alone the low-level cultivators of Heavenly Dipper sect. What sort of power could do that? While the six half-martial ancestors were shocked, the martial Dao Prime Body had already arrived before that half-martial ancestor of Heavenly Dipper sect. He extended his finger and tapped the latter's glabella gently. Poof! Instantly, a bloodied hole appeared on the glabella of the half-martial ancestor of Heavenly Dipper sect. Blood flowed and his essence spirit was destroyed. After insulting the martial Dao Prime Body, that person was killed by a single finger from him in less than 10 breaths. The martial Dao Prime Body slapped another half-martial ancestor on the cheek. Poof! The head of the half-martial ancestor exploded from a single slap of the martial Dao Prime Body and his essence spirit exploded, dying on the spot. The figure of the martial Dao Prime Body had long vanished from the spot and arrived before the third half-martial ancestor without being tainted by any blood. Ah! The half-martial ancestor of Heavenly Dipper sect reacted and roared in fear. He took out a large number of protection talismans from his storage bag and tore them apart. A series of light barriers appeared on the body of the half-martial ancestor of Heavenly Dipper sect. The martial Dao Prime Body ignored the protection talismans and punched over. Poof, poof, poof. Against the fist of the martial Dao Prime Body, those protection talismans were like paper. Almost without any resistance, the martial Dao Prime Body punched the person and the immense power turned the latter's body into dust, destroying his essence spirit. A finger poke, a palm strike and a punch. Three half-martial ancestors of Heavenly Dipper sect were dead. Half-martial ancestor Zhanlong of Heavenly Dipper sect and the other two stood on the spot, completely dumbfounded. Earlier on, they were slightly further away and hesitated for a moment. Before they could attack, the three half-martial ancestors were already dead. At that moment, half-martial ancestor Zhanlong and the other two were so scared that they did not dare to move, let alone attack the martial Dao Prime Body. The massive number of Heavenly Dipper sect cultivators were silent out of fear as well. Chapter 1615 Library. Chapter 1615 Library. A fellow Taoist. Elder Zhanlong's face was pale and his voice trembled uncontrollably. He forced a smile. I don't think Heavenly Dipper sect has any feud with you, right? Why are you here? He could tell that the purple-robed mysterious man did not seem like someone who would kill the innocent. At the very least, if the cultivators of Heavenly Dipper sect stayed obediently and did not provoke him, that person would not come looking for them. The martial Dao Prime Body said, I want to take away all the cultivation techniques and secret skills of Heavenly Dipper sect. How can that do? Elder Zhanlong shuddered and exclaimed. The cultivation techniques and secret skills of every sect were the foundation of their sect. Outsiders were not allowed to read them, let alone take them away. Furthermore, the purple-robed mysterious man did not say that he was going to take away one or two cultivation techniques. He was going to take away all of them. This was practically severing the legacy of Heavenly Dipper sect. That's right. Another elder said in a deep voice, these cultivation techniques and secret skills are the foundation of Heavenly Dipper sect and we won't allow outsiders to lay their hands on them. The third elder grit his teeth as well. How is Heavenly Dipper sect going to continue passing down our legacy if you take away all our cultivation techniques and secret skills? I'm not discussing with you guys. The Martial Tao Prime Body said indifferently, I'm merely elaborating something to you guys. It doesn't matter whether you agree or not. Although his tone was calm, it carried an unquestionable power. For a moment, the three of them did not know how to refute. The gaze of the Martial Tao Prime Body shifted and landed on Jianghu peak of the 36 main peaks, descending slowly. Elder Zhanlong's expression changed as he looked at the back of the Martial Tao Prime Body. His eyes flashed intermittently with killing intent and hesitation at times. Suddenly, the Martial Tao Prime Body paused and glanced sideways, saying softly, "Right, let me remind you guys not to try and provoke me. Otherwise, I don't mind sending you guys on your way to the afterlife." As for the legacy of Heavenly Dipper sect, the Martial Tao Prime Body paused for a moment and smiled mockingly. If it ends, so be it. There's nothing to pity. Heavenly Dipper sect is not worthy of being ranked as an immortal sect. With that said, the Martial Tao Prime Body continued descending towards Jianghu peak. The Martial Tao Prime Body comprehended 100 sutras and smelted all dermic arts. The best way to break through was to fuse even more cultivation techniques and secret skills into the Martial Tao furnace continuously. Back then, after the Martial Tao Prime Body killed Di Fan, half-martial ancestor Di Ju and the others, he obtained some cultivation techniques and secret skills, including powerful cultivation techniques such as the Great Chaos Essence Palm and Earth-Slaying Sword Art. The smelting of those cultivation techniques helped him in raising his cultivation immensely. At that time, the Martial Tao Prime Body discovered this method. However, all these years, he was still smelting some of the cultivation techniques and secret skills he had obtained previously and did not make any moves. Now that the 10,000 race meet was held, the Martial Tao Prime Body arrived at Heavenly Dipper sect after knowing about some things that happened during the meet, prepared to take away all the cultivation techniques and secret skills of Heavenly Dipper sect. Since Heavenly Dipper sect chose to submit to the primordial 6 races, the Martial Tao Prime Body would take away their cultivation techniques and secret skills and sever their legacy completely. The Martial Tao Prime Body did not go on a massacre. That was because not all Heavenly Dipper sect cultivators were evil. Most of the disciples of Heavenly Dipper sect might not know that the sect master, Patriarchs and the others of Heavenly Dipper sect had already chosen to submit to the primordial 6 races. There was no need for him to punish ordinary cultivators of Heavenly Dipper sect because of this. Elder Zhanlong, what should we do? A half-martial ancestor looked at the departing back of the Martial Tao Prime Body and frowned. We should hurry and inform the sect master. If we really let him take away all the cultivation techniques and secret skills of the sect, it'll be equivalent to a calamity of annihilation. Wait a while more. Elder Zhanlong said in a deep voice, the sect master and many patriarchs are taking part in the 10,000 race meet at Enigma Palace. I'm afraid they won't be able to leave. After a brief pause, he sneered and looked at the library of Jianghu Peak, sending a voice transmission with his spirit consciousness. Do you really think that our sect doesn't have a patriarch guarding such an important place? Ah. A half-martial ancestor at the side exclaimed and shut his mouth hurriedly, sending a voice transmission secretly. Shouldn't the Mahayana patriarchs be comprehending divine powers in the ancient battlefield? Why would anyone be guarding the sect? There's a Mahayana patriarch in the sect? Why didn't I know about it? Another half-martial ancestor revealed a shocked expression as well. Hee hee. Elder Zhanlong gave a strange laugh. All of you have seen that person before as well. We have. The two half-martial ancestors were even more surprised. Elder Zhanlong raised his head slightly and looked at the library. In there. Library? A half-martial ancestor's expression changed as he probed. Elder son who's guarding the library? Isn't he a conjoint body mighty figure? Elder Zhanlong glanced at that person. Do you think any nobody is qualified to guard an important place like the library? Elder Sun has been a Mahayana patriarch since a long time ago. His lifespan was almost up and he wouldn't be able to comprehend anything even if he lingered in the ancient battlefield. Therefore he chose to return to the sect to guard the library. The other two half-martial ancestors revealed enlightened expressions. Elder Zhan Long crossed his arms and gloated. When that mysterious person enters the library, he'll discover that there's a huge surprise waiting for him. The Library of Heavenly Dipper Sect was on Tiankue Peak of the 36 main peaks. The library was extremely ancient and was 100 feet tall. There were a total of 7 levels and it was filled with ancient books and secret skills that had been passed down for a long time. The martial Tao Prime Body arrived before the library and pushed the door open without hesitation. The door opened and an ancient aura that was covered in dust surged over. The martial Tao Prime Body entered the library and his figure disappeared into the darkness. The door behind him closed slowly and disappeared from the line of sight of Elder Zhan Long and the others. The martial Tao Prime Body entered the first level of the library and was in no hurry to move. He scanned the hall and eventually looked at a dark corner. Cough cough. A moment later, a hoarse cough sounded from that dark corner. As though someone had stood up slowly from the ground, a dust cloud rose and walked out from the darkness. It was an old man with a white beard. He was not tall, was skinny and hunched. At most, he could only reach the waist of the martial Tao Prime Body. The old man wielded a bare, curved wooden staff and staggered with a lowered head. His disheveled hair fell to his forehead as he panted slightly. "What sort of books do you want to read?" "I'm not reading them." The martial Tao Prime Body looked at the old man and said with a fake smile, "I'm going to take away all the books here." Sigh. The old man sighed. "Young people are just too greedy. If you really want to read these ancient books, you can come at any time. However, if you want to take them away, you won't be able to do it alone. Young man, listen to my advice. That greed is going to cost your life." The martial Tao Prime Body smiled gently. "Old man, let me give you a piece of advice as well. You're already old and should go enjoy your later years. If you're nosy, it's going to cost your life as well." Chapter 16:16, Star Plucking Hand. Chapter 16:16, Star Plucking Hand. After the martial Tao Prime Body said that, the entire library fell into silence. He. A long time later, a sinister laughter sounded from the library. The old man raised his head slowly and revealed a pair of hazy eyes. Grinning, he revealed a yellow tooth and his face was filled with wrinkles. With a menacing smile, he looked like a malevolent ghost. "Young man, do you know who you're talking to?" The old man glared at the face of the martial Tao Prime Body and asked slowly. Although the old man was already in his twilight years, his gaze was still sharp and he wanted to see through the fog on the face of the martial Tao Prime Body. However, the fog was extremely mysterious and he could not see through it no matter what. "A patriarch on the brink of death." The martial Tao Prime Body replied blandly. "MMM?" The old man's heart skipped a beat as he asked with a narrowed gaze, "You're able to see through my cultivation?" He had been hiding his cultivation realm the entire time. In the eyes of outsiders, he was just an ordinary conjoint body mighty figure. To think that his background would be exposed by a single sentence of the martial Tao Prime Body. Actually, the moment the martial Tao Prime Body descended above Heavenly Dipper Sect and released his spirit consciousness, he had already discovered the Patriarch hidden in the library. To be precise, after the martial Tao Prime Body released his spirit consciousness and scanned the place, he knew how many half-martial ancestors and conjoint body mighty figures Heavenly Dipper Sect had. In fact, he even knew how many of them were in seclusion. Nothing about Heavenly Dipper Sect could be hidden from the eyes and spirit consciousness of the martial Tao Prime Body. "Who are you?" The old man's gaze turned increasingly cold as he asked slowly. "I'm Desolate Martial." The martial Tao Prime Body replied blandly. "Impossible." The old man said resolutely, "I heard that Desolate Martial's 2 true bodies are already gathered at Enigma Palace and can't escape at all. How can you be him?" The martial Tao Prime Body smiled and ignored it. His spirit consciousness moved and he was prepared to collect all the ancient books in the place. Suddenly, the old man hollered softly, "Astral illumination." A powerful divine power spread and a gigantic star appeared above the old man's head. It descended with a bedazzling starlight and stabbed towards the martial Tao Prime Body. "Fu." The martial Tao Prime Body chuckled and shook his head. You truly have a death wish. Against the descending starlight, the martial Tao prime body reached out against the starlight and grabbed towards the firmaments. A massive hand blanketed the skies, threatening to disrupt the galaxies. Piak. The next moment, the heavenly encompassing palm grabbed the star above the old man's head and yanked it down from the firmaments. The old man's eyes were widened with deep shock. In his heart, while the martial Tao prime body was mysterious, he was only a half-martial ancestor. Although he was old, if he released his divine power, he would definitely be able to severely injure the purple-robed mysterious man or even kill him. However, the old man had not expected that his divine power would be destroyed by this mysterious person bare-handed. The destiny star that he cultivated was captured from the firmaments by this mysterious person. Most importantly, the technique released by that mysterious person earlier on was clearly the strongest secret skill of Heavenly Dipper sect, the star-plucking hand. Only a half-martial ancestor of Heavenly Dipper sect was qualified to cultivate the star-plucking hand. How did this purple-robed mysterious man know about it? Back then, Di Fan, half-martial ancestor Di Ju and the others went to Pingyang town to take revenge on Desolate Martial. However, they were all killed by the martial Tao prime body. Among them was a half-martial ancestor of Heavenly Dipper sect, Illumination. That secret skill was obtained by the martial Tao prime body from the storage bag of half-martial ancestor Illumination. The reason why the star-plucking hand was the strongest secret skill of Heavenly Dipper sect was not merely because of how strong it was. More than that, it was because a supreme divine power was hidden in the star-plucking hand. If one were to cultivate the star-plucking hand to its peak, they might be able to comprehend the supreme divine power, the true star-plucking hand. When released, that supreme divine power could truly pluck the stars in the firmaments and use them as his weapons to fight against enemies. Why you? The old man was already speechless and his expression was dark. His lifespan was about to end and his essence spirit became extremely weak after releasing that divine power. To think that the divine power would be destroyed by the martial Tao prime body with ease. The martial Tao prime body had a calm expression. After plucking the star that the old man condensed, he exerted strength in his palm. Snap. The star was crushed by the martial Tao prime body in front of the old man. The old man shuddered as though he was struck by lightning and his expression turned even more terrible as his life force drained rapidly. His remaining lifespan could not sustain the consecutive losses and attacks. This Mahayana Patriarch was going to die even without the martial Tao prime body attacking. Outside the library above Tiankue Peak, Elder Zhan Long and the other two half-martial ancestors did not leave and waited for the final outcome patiently. Before long, a shuddering aura spread out from the library. Even through the tightly shut door, the three half-martial ancestors in midair could sense the fluctuation of the divine powers in the library. Elder Sun has attacked. Elder Zhan Long was delighted and could not help but laugh. Another half-martial ancestor heaved a sigh of relief as well. No matter how strong that purple-robed mysterious man is, he's only a half-martial ancestor. He'll definitely die against the descent of a divine power. True enough. After a fight broke out in the library, everything returned to normal and there were no signs of life. Let's go down and see just who that purple-robed mysterious man is. Elder Zhan Long smiled gently and descended in front of the library with the two half-martial ancestors beside him. Creak. The moment the three of them arrived at the entrance, the door to the library opened on its own. The library was dark and deep, exuding a sinister and calm aura that even the spirit consciousnesses of Elder Zhan Long and the other two could not penetrate. Suddenly, a figure flew out. Watch out. The expressions of Elder Zhan Long and the other two changed. They did not dare to take it head-on and retreated one after another to dodge. Bang. The figure fell to the ground motionlessly. The door to the library closed once more, shutting slowly. The three of them focused their gazes and saw that the figure lying on the ground was the Mahayana Patriarch of the library, Elder Sun. At that moment, Elder Sun's eyes were widened with endless fear in them. There was no longer any life within his body and he could not rest in peace. Dead. The Mahayana Patriarch guarding the library was dead. Ah! Elder Zhan Long and the other two exclaimed as they felt chills run down their spines. Hurry and inform the sect master. A half-martial ancestor said hurriedly with a trembling voice. Even without his reminder, Elder Zhan Long had already slapped his storage bag. He withdrew a talisman, ripping it apart. The talisman shattered and a beam of light shot into the void, vanishing. This was a distressed talisman for reinforcements from the sect and would definitely not be used unless the sect was at risk of being annihilated. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.